You already got it? Yeah, man. All right. And we are back, episode 54 of the Bayou Dragons podcast. Me, Mitch, and might as well just say Ryan Warhola. I think you've been on the last, 7 podcasts, so you're just now my podcast concierge.
Hey, I'm here for you, buddy.
Hell yeah. And then we have a special guest, funny story how I even knew about this guy, but he is a one-of-a-kind person, a chef, but in the coldest place on earth. And his name is Zeke.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I've heard about this Zeke character for about 10 years now. Everybody I know from Port Neches that I hang out with, there's always yeah, dude, Zeke. And then when I started the podcast 2 years ago, multiple times, it's dude, Zeke would be a great. And I'm I've never met this Zeke character. I've never even met anyone named Zeke. And then just the other day, drinking cold beer over at Nature's Brewery. Shout out Tyler Blunt. Just Zeke came in, started talking to Tyler, sat right next to me, and just started talking. And I was I've only ever heard of one Zeke. And he's a chef in the South Pole, and he's that's me. So I was I asked him if he'd come and hop on the podcast, tell us some stories about, cooking in the coldest elements of Earth, figure out, all the conspiracy theories about the South Pole, and his world travels, because you've been to how many continents?
5 of 7, everywhere but Africa and South America.
Yeah, so we'll touch all of that, man, but just go ahead, give us a little introduction about yourself, name, where you grew up, just that whole situation. Then we'll start just pounding you with questions.
Sweet, yeah. My name is Zeke Mills. I grew up in Groves, so mid-county guy. I graduated high school in 2005, and I worked at Larry's French Market. I don't know if y'all remember that place. Groves. So that was my first job, and I worked there. I started working there when I was about 16, and then fell in love with kitchen work, and always liked to cook since I was a little kid. And I forget, there was an old cook there that was you should go to culinary school, and it kind of sparked my mind on it, and ended up going to culinary school in New York. And I moved to New York right out of high school, moved to Hyde Park, New York. It's about an hour and a half north of the city, up in the mountains, really beautiful area. And that's where my interest in travel kind of really got sparked, was in culinary school. I mean, I learned a lot about cooking, but I learned a lot about just the world, and got to go to Spain and travel quite a bit. During that time, that kind of really sparked my interest in it. And then, I graduated in 2008, which is a pretty shitty time to graduate college. It's the economy shit the bed. And I moved back down to Southeast Texas. I was here for about a year, worked at St. Mary's Hospital as a cook, and just kind of getting by. And then ended up moving to Austin, worked there for a little bit in restaurants, and ended up joining the Army. I took this weird break in my life, joined the Army, and this might open up more questions for you later, because you may not know this might be more interesting than Antarctica, but I was in the Army for 4 years, and a year of that I was a guard in Guantanamo Bay. And so, so I was in Cuba for a year. It was my first duty station, and then up living in just outside of Kansas City for 3 years, working at Fort Leavenworth, did a variety of jobs in the Army, mostly military police related. I didn't cook those 4 years. It was a weird time. And I got out in 2015, and then joined and ended up going back in the restaurant business. I worked at the Wheelhouse in Port Neches.
Love the Wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I worked there as an assistant manager for about a year. But I was kind of stagnant. I was I wouldn't say I wasn't happy, but I was I needed to do more in my life, and I wanted to travel. And I was one day, it was a Tuesday morning, I was just kind of in one of those moods. It's I don't know, I'm just going to look on Indeed.com. Just I think I was sitting on my bed in my underwear with my computer, just scrolling through the Indeed.com, and I found this job posting for a cook position in Antarctica. And I was well, that sounds interesting. I'll apply. I didn't think I would ever hear back, because 90% of the jobs you ever apply for, you never hear anything back. And so I applied, and the next day I get an email and scheduled an interview, and the rest is history. And I went down there my first time thinking, I'll just do a season. It was a summer contract, 4 months, which is like what a lot of people just do. You just go down there for the adventure, do it 1 year, and then go back and get a real job. And 8 years later, I'm still doing it. So I went down there as a cook my first year, ended up extending into like halfway into the winter in McMurdo. And I can explain later kind of the different stations, but was there from like October of 16 to June of 17, and then like left, came back, and then traveled a little bit in Southeast Asia, but took about 3 months off and then went back down there and did a full year at the South Pole. So, and then I've been going down. This next year I'll go back in October. That'll be my 9th season in Antarctica. So yeah, so seasons, when we talk about seasons down there, it's like summer or winter. So most people just do summer, and then a small crew stays for the winter. So each of those is counted as a season. So I've done 3 winters at the South Pole, 3 summers in the South Pole, and then 3 summers in McMurdo, and then like a couple half winters in McMurdo. But yeah, it's been quite the adventure. Yeah, please ask all the questions you want. I love Antarctica. There's a reason I go back, and a lot of people think it's the beauty of the place, and that's part of it. But really, at the end of the day, it's the community, it's the people down there. It's a special group of interesting vagabonds, as we say. We're all pretty well traveled and kind of eclectic group of people, and it's kind of my vibe. And yeah, and I love it. This will be a longest break I've ever taken. When I go back in October, it'll be a year. So I'm gonna go to Colorado a little bit and do a job up there in the mountains. But yeah, excited to get back down there.
So did you always like the cold before you went down there? I mean, you live in Southeast Texas, so you never got it.
I would say, not really. I got the cold when I moved to New York for college, like relatively to like Southeast Texas. I think I'd seen snow once before I moved to New York for college, and that was in Kentucky. We went and visited my aunt and uncle in Louisville, and when I was probably like 14, and it snowed on Christmas Day. That was the only time up until that point I'd ever seen snow, up until I moved to New York. And yeah, it wasn't that I liked the cold. And I definitely saw cold when I was in Kansas City. I was there for 3 years. But yeah, I don't know. I do. The cold can be very painful sometimes, and I have some stories about that, particularly at the South Pole. But yeah, I don't know why I'm drawn to cold environments. I wouldn't say that I love the cold. I kind of just like the community and the job I have that's kind of just somehow giving me this like really weird niche of like running kitchens in very remote, cold places.
Hell yeah. So your first summer when you went, how old were you?
I had just turned 30.
So you were 30 years old, went down there, and the summer, what was the weather like? I mean, summer, and were you in the South Pole or were you McMurdo?
No, I was McMurdo my first year. So it just kind of gives some people some perspective. So, Antarctica is a pretty big continent. It's about 2/3 of the size of the United States. So it's pretty big. McMurdo is on the coast. It's on the it's in islands. It's on Ross Island, which is in the middle of the Ross Sea, right next to the Ross Ice Shelf. And so it's kind of more coastal. We get boats there in the summer. That's how we get resupplied. And it's much warmer than the South Pole. It still gets really cold, but summertime, so things kind of change very quickly there based on like as quick as the sun comes up. So I got there my first season, the first week of October, and it's still pretty cold early October in McMurdo. You're probably hanging around like 0 and, maybe up to like single digits for a little bit, and you'll get windy days. It'll drop it below like -10, -20, but by December, McMurdo's usually in like the 20s or 30s. Temperature wise, it warms up. I think the warmest I've seen in McMurdo is about 38, so above freezing, which is kind of weird because like we have permanent ice there, and I have to drive. One particular year in 2021, like I had to drive to work every day out on the ice shelf, and it gets like kind of slushy. It's like driving in Sonic ice. It gets it warms up so that like the top part of the ice starts to get kind of slushy, which is kind of like my least favorite part of the seasons because it's kind of stressful driving on that. But yeah, it warms up relatively warm for there. But with everything down there, the wind's everything. So like it could be 20 degrees, which on a non-windy day and that drive and environment, like it's not that bad. Like you can be fairly comfortable. You can spend probably 5-10 minutes outside in just a t-shirt, but when it gets windy, that's when it gets pretty painful.
So in McMurdo when you're down there? So you went down with the company you're working for. What were you? I mean, I know you were cooking, but what was the company doing? You know what I mean? Like the main.
Yeah. So I work for a contractor when I'm down there. So we're there for science. So it's the National Science Foundation runs everything down there. McMurdo in particular is kind of just a launching point for science on the continent. For any pretty much other than Palmer Station, which is on the peninsula closer to Chile, most of the science in Antarctica starts from McMurdo. So it's kind of the logistics hub. We have two runways. We have one runway and a skiway to land planes, to bring in cargo and bring in people. And so and we have helicopters in the summer that bring people up to like closer camps. But it's all science. And it's a variety of science, and I can get into some of the science. I'm not a scientist, so like don't quote me on all this stuff, but I've learned quite a bit of it over the years, but very, very layman terms. I am a chef, by the way. I'm not a physicist or a biologist. But each location is kind of different. McMurdo is there's a lot of biology taking place down there. There's a lot of sea life and animals in McMurdo. So you have penguins that show up in the summer, seals, whales. There's a bird called the skua that shows up every summer.
Is that the one you were telling me that pisses you off?
It can be an asshole. Yeah. The skuas are kind of a scavenger bird. They migrate to McMurdo every year. They're a beautiful bird, and like they really are a fascinating bird, but that can kind of be dickheads sometimes. If they think you're food or you have food, they have a tendency sometimes to attack you, dive bomb you, and they're not a small bird. But yeah, that's kind of like the big science there. But there's also like McMurdo is on Ross Island, which is home of Mount Erebus, which is the southernmost volcano in the world, and it's an active volcano, and it's a beautiful, beautiful mountain. Like everything around McMurdo, like in town, McMurdo is kind of ugly. It's like a weird place. It's like in town, gets in the summer, like all the snow melts in town, and it's kind of dirty. It's like a bunch of dirt everywhere, and it gets muddy, and if it's a kind of a cloudy day, you don't see the mountains as well. But like you walk up to the bay and the shore, and it's just some of the most majestic mountains on the planet. And it's really pretty to see. Yeah, it's kind of a real time. The best hiking in the planet, in my opinion, is just off of Ross Island. And I've done a lot of hiking in my life in New Zealand and Nepal, and there's something special, particularly about some of the hikes there that I really love. But yeah, science is why we're there, and there's everything ranging from climatology to glaciology to physics. South Pole's mostly physics, astrophysics, and cosmology. But yeah, there's a ton of different science projects down there.
So I'm assuming it's a ton of different scientists from a ton of different countries as well. It's not all just Americans down there.
No. Now, everyone pretty much there is with an American institution. So like whether it's Harvard or Princeton or University of Chicago, or the University of Texas, but you get a pretty international crew in the science realm of it. I mean, it's still mostly American. Like everyone that comes through there pretty much speaks English.
Gotcha.
We'll get a few because McMurdo has like the best logistics on the continent. We'll get some other stations flying through. The Italians will come through sometimes, and a few other the Australians, and New Zealand's base is right next to ours too. So we like interact with the New Zealand folks all the time. But in general, yeah, you get, particularly in the science realm, you get quite a few people from overseas, but they're working usually, they're on a grant, and they're on a U.S. visa to be there.
Gotcha. So there are different bases for different countries down there?
Yeah, so yeah, there are a ton. I mean, like Russia has a base, China has a base, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK, Germans, Koreans, yeah, you name it. Like there's a lot of bases. Not a lot of the bases are year round.
Gotcha.
So the U.S. has 3 year round bases, but there's hundreds of like bases that are open in the summer, but a lot of them they're open in the summer and they close in the winter, and just winterized stuff. They're only open for the summer because the winter is when things get really dangerous and it becomes harder to run stuff.
So have you done a winter in McMurdo?
So I haven't done a full winter in McMurdo, but I've done, I did a half winter. We called it a shoulder season in 2017. So I stayed so it's opposite down there than here. So winter is going to be roughly, in McMurdo, winter is going to be roughly March to September or October, roughly. And I stayed till like end of May, early June. And then one year I came in at Windfly. We have a season, like a shoulder season, at the beginning of the summer called Windfly. Usually the population kind of almost doubles from the winter population in August. We bring in basically kind of just like people to get the station up and running before it goes full tilt in the summer. And you fly in August, in the middle, usually early to mid-August. Usually you're late because the weather's really bad, which is not bad because you get a like free vacation in New Zealand. But yeah, so those are kind of the seasons. I've done a season where I came in August. I've done where I left in June. So I haven't done a full winter in McMurdo, but will at some point. But I've done 3 full winters at South Pole. Which,
I have a question for you. So you said you did the culinary school, and then you kind of bounced around here in Southeast Texas a little bit, and then you got this crazy job in Antarctica. So a bunch of people that do get that job or that would take that job, you know, it would be like one-time deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's something there that keeps drawing you back. You must really like working down there. What's drawing you back, man? Why do you like it down there so much?
Man, it's a combination of things. I think at the end of the day, it's the people. I mean, I've built really strong relations down there. I've built a really good career down there, and it's the community down there is like nothing I've ever been a part of. It's really special. And you know, I think my draw to the community is I grew up in a really good community in Point Neches and Groves. Like, you know, I mean, that's part of you know, it'll always be a part of who I am. I'm from Southeast Texas, and that's very much part of my identity. But the community there is something that's become, you know, part of who I am as well. You know, I've spent a lot of time there and made some great friends. And yeah, in the job, like once you learn it, you know, it is very challenging at times, but like you kind of get in your niche and you get in your rhythm down there, and there's always something new every season. You know, I've worked like normal 9-to-5 jobs, and it's not like that down there because every time's a season, right? So like even if you're not having like the best contract and things may not be going like they normally do, and you're not necessarily happy and you're ready for a break, like there's always an ending to it, you know, where like, you know, a normal 9-to-5, like it only ends when you quit.
You're essentially going on an adventure every time you go to work. Yeah, every
exactly.
Time, you know, go down
right.
there. So.
Yeah. And like one of the things that's really cool is like, you know, you always are meeting new people. So like every year when I go back, you know, I would say like 40% of the people, 40 to 50% of the people there I know, and they're like people I've known for years, but the other half, they're all new to the place. And it's like, they're all like rejuvenated. Like it always like rejuvenates me when like I get down there, and I've been down there a lot. And so like, I've seen those mountains, I've been on those hikes, and like, yeah, they're beautiful, but you do it enough, you know, you become unfortunately jaded by it a little bit, you know, but when I'm with someone that's new and they're witnessing and seeing this very rare place for the first time, it like really rejuvenates me. And it's like that every season. Like you get that constant, just like, I don't know, it's kind of a renewal, even though like you're going back to a place you've been to before. Yeah. It's like, you know, in a way you're like starting over, but you're starting over without like that stress of a new job because you already know the job, right?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, and that's part of it. And it's like, there's this freedom with it. You know, when you're done, it can add some stress, like, because you're always like chasing contracts, right? And a lot of us go back and forth between Alaska and Greenland and other places. You know, I'm going to Colorado this summer. And so that brings some like stress because it becomes hard to like manage your money and manage your time and stuff. But like when you're done, when you're off work between contracts, like you're done, like you can have as much time off as you want, and you're not worrying about your job, right? You know, normal vacation, like your job's still in the back of your head, your email's still active.
Yeah.
You know,
trust me, I know.
Cause so like when I like, a couple years ago, like I took about 2 months, and like I spent a month in New Zealand, then a month in Nepal. And it's like, you know, I wasn't thinking about anything but like the hike I was going on that day, you know? And that was, there's kind of like a freedom to that, you know, once you start doing it, it's hard to explain, you know, even like after last year was pretty frustrating year, and I can't really go into too much detail on it, but like it was a harder year than most years, and it was long. I did 13 and a half months at South Pole, and it's the most isolating place on the planet. And so it can wear on you, especially after that amount of time. And things that are like may seem trivial, and you know, when you look back on it, it's like during the time it's kind of like magnified because you can't get away from it. And so I needed a break, and I've taken about a 6 months break now before I'm going back to kind of a similar job, but this time in Colorado. But there's always something always draws you back, you know. Because you always, you know, many times people leave, it's just like, especially when you go as much as it's like, I'm gonna take a break or I'm not gonna go back. And it's like, you show back, everyone shows back up. You know, like the same time I like made the decision I'm going back. And my buddy Steve, who was like, did the same thing as me, was like, oh, I'm not going back. I'm gonna try to get a real job. And he's like texting me. It's like, yeah, I'm going back.
I'm going back. Yeah.
Saw a contract yesterday too. It's just like, it has this way of, drawing you back, man.
Well, it's not just an adventure being there; it's an adventure to get there. I'm assuming too. So, what's it look like to leave the States to make it to the Antarctica?
Yeah. So, the first step is getting to New Zealand, to Christchurch, New Zealand, and that's usually not much of an adventure if you traveled internationally.
Yeah. It's just a long flight.
It's just a long flight, and you'll eventually get there. Usually, you have either a layover in Auckland, New Zealand, or one in Sydney, Australia. And I think now they have a direct flight to Christchurch from LA, but it's not bad. Traveling in Antarctica teaches you patience.
Yeah.
I mean, never make plans around the time you're scheduled to leave, ever. I mean, it's just, you're at the will of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And weather has to be really good for planes to land. The planes have to work. When we're flying mostly military planes down there, and like, you know, they break down sometimes. And it's not that they break down. They're just really strict on thankfully, right? Just like they do a lot of double checking of everything. And if anything's out of whack, like they're not going to fly. And so planes get delayed all the time. This will be my 6th actual flight to Antarctica next year. I've never once ever left on time.
Yeah.
When I was scheduled to fly from Christchurch to McMurdo.
Yeah.
Like it's always delayed.
What's your longest delay, you think?
The longest delay was 2021, and that was pretty wild. That was because of COVID. So COVID threw a total wrench down there too, because we had a quarantine in New Zealand first, so before getting to the continent, and so it's like the last thing they wanted at that time was getting COVID down there because we're so like close quarters, and so like we quarantined in Christchurch, New Zealand. So we fly all down there. And then that was like a 2-week quarantine. And so we're supposed to do the 2-week quarantine and then to go directly there on a plane and fly down. Now, if the plane got delayed, we were like considered a bubble. So we like got moved to a hotel where it was just us. So like we weren't quarantined in our rooms until the plane flew. We had like free roam of the whole hotel because it was just us, which wasn't bad. But we ended up getting delayed another 2.5 weeks. So
you're at 4.5 weeks now.
Yeah, so we're at nearly like over a month before, when you count all the time, we were in quarantine before we got to McMurdo, which was pretty crazy. But you know, it wasn't bad. Like some people were complaining about it. It's like, dude, we're getting paid to do jack shit. Like I'm literally sitting my ass in a nice hotel. I got they give me food every day. Like at what other point in my life am I going to make my full salary plus per diem like to do jack shit?
Yeah.
So like
zero.
It was great. Like I didn't complain at all, you know. And I was like joking. It's like I've done 2 winters at South Pole. Like I have no problem like just not doing, you know, being bored. Like I can find a way to. And we made the best of it. You know, it's this, you know, it was a good group of people. Like the Olympics are on, so like we were watching the Olympics every day. Yeah, we had fun. I did like a trivia night, you know, because at least during that, like the first like 2 weeks sucked because you couldn't leave a room. But like once you got to that point where it was just us and like, you know, yeah, we couldn't leave the hotel, but we had a little outdoor area that was made for us. Like it wasn't bad, you know. We were ready to get down there by the time we were able to fly. But yeah, it was wild because we get I've had really bad luck. One of the things we call it a boomerang. This happens a lot in Antarctica. So it's a plane will take off and start heading to its destination, but then something will happen. Weather will go bad, or there'll be a mechanical issue in the plane, and you turn around and you go back to your point of origin. And like I claim, like I have to have, like I think I'm just bad luck. Like I've been on more boomerangs than most. I'm at like 6 or 7 boomerangs in my career in Antarctica. And but the worst one was, so we would have been in McMurdo with like less than like that particular time. Within like 2 weeks, like we had finished quarantine. We had one night in the group hotel, and we got on the plane and we took off. We flew all the way to McMurdo, but couldn't land because the weather had like gone to like zero visibility, and we turned around. So we were in the air for 12 hours and went nowhere.
That sucks.
It sucks.
It's a 12-hour flight from New Zealand to McMurdo? Or
No,
from Christchurch?
it's 6 hours.
Oh, but
It's like 5.5, 6 hours, but we flew there and then had to fly back.
thank God you had enough gas, huh?
Oh yeah. So this is on a C-17. It's got a pretty long ability to fly. So like those things happened. I've like twice boomeranged back to South Pole, which like never happens because like South Pole is like the most extreme place other than this camp called Waste Divide. It's like one of the most extreme places for these planes to land, and like they never like take off for McMurdo and then like go back to South Pole, right? But yeah, I've been on that twice, which is like sucks. And that was like 6 hours. It's a 3-hour flight from South Pole to McMurdo and a C-130, and it's like, damn, when that was 6 hours. You know, For nothing.
Remind me to never get on a plane with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, all right, you're about to be
boomeranged.
Yeah, you're almost to Tokyo, but we're turning around going back to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Now, I've had good luck in like commercial flights. You know, I've like never had my luggage lost, never been, knock on wood, but I've been pretty lucky on that. But yeah, I've had some weird stuff. I got boomeranged. They had these tiny planes called they're called Baslers, DC-3. Really cool. Canadians fly them. And I've flown them in both Greenland and Antarctica. And they're it's what we flew in World War II. Like they're really old planes, but they're beautiful planes. And when you fly in them in Antarctica, like the big planes like C-130s, you fly high enough in altitude where you're kind of like flying over everything. Sometimes you miss it all because you're above it, but the DC-3s aren't pressurized, so you fly pretty low, and you like fly through the mountains. But like those planes, like those pilots are like some of the best in the world. They're cowboys, and like
that's cool.
They'll land, like they'll push it sometimes. But this particular time they had a boomerang back, and it's like I'm in a Basler and I got boomerang. Like this doesn't happen. But yeah, it is what it. That ended up being like a really pretty flight because we boomeranged like right away, and so like planes have to like burn fuel. People don't like realize this like. When we take off, there's too much fuel to land. Mm-hmm. And so we had to like fly in a circle, but we were flying around like Ross Island, which is absolutely breathtaking. It was a beautiful day at McMurdo. And so we just like flew in a circle and like we're circling the volcano. Like it was really cool. So it was worth it. The only thing that sucks is I had to piss real bad. And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I doubt there's a pisser on one of those.
They just hit the pee in a bottle, which I'm a pro at. Like that's multiple locations down there. You're not allowed to pee outside in Antarctica. So you have to pee in a bottle.
Yeah, I would. Well, I imagine that would just turn straight to a dick sickle.
What the bottle or just piss?
If you peed, it would.
Yeah. I mean, they'd be surprised actually, but yeah, we're not allowed to pee outside just because like we're very protective in the environment and try not to leave as much of our happenings behind. But it is what it is. I just like in that plane, I was like, God damn. And I didn't bring a pee bottle, and like they normally put a curtain up, and they didn't put the curtain up, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to fucking hold it. But yeah, rough. But I've had but one of my worst situations with the pee bottle. So it was on the same plane, and they had like they had a bag of like pee bottles for you to just grab, like if you needed one. And so I went into the back and I went to go piss and grabbed a pee bottle that's there for us, and started pissing it, and it had a hole in it, and I didn't realize it until after I started pissing. And like, dude, I pissed all over the bottom of that plane. It froze like immediately because like the back of the plane's like not heated, like it's only heated like up where the seats are, and so it's like it froze. Like I went and grabbed like I had like a t-shirt in my backpack, and it was like went back there and cleaned it up the best I can. I felt so bad. I was like, I just pissed all over your plane, but like it's not my fault.
Wasn't my fault.
It wasn't my fault. Your pee bottle had a hole in it.
We'll stop right here.
Yeah. All right, so you started out at McMurdo. We've been, giving a little bit of a brief rundown on the McMurdo.
Yeah.
But so how many years did you work there before you went down to the South Pole?
That was just my first season. So my first season was at McMurdo, and my second was in South Pole.
Wow. So is there like do most people start at McMurdo before they get shifted down there?
I would say for the most part, yes. Sometimes things happen, and that's not the case, but pretty much going into the season when we do hiring, I mean, the goal is to have people who are returners. South Pole is a little bit smaller, and we try to get the best crew we can possibly get and people that have kind of proved themselves. But there's been times where we've had to send people down there their first season to South Pole. Fortunately, on my part, like the teams I've led where I've had new people, they've been amazing. So in their first seasons. But, yeah, typically you've had a season in McMurdo, but not always. Not always.
So you've done the cooking thing while you've been down there the whole time. Like you've been
Yes.
Like were you a leader when you first got down there, or like you worked your way to that?
Kind of worked my way to it. I mean, I had a lot of leadership experience going into it, so I kind of moved up pretty quickly. But yeah, by my second season, I was in charge of the whole department. So, or the food service supervisor, which is, at South Pole, we're pretty independent. I have no boss above me locally. So
and
how
many of you are there, like in that certain position?
So in the summer, I have about 10 on my staff, counting me, 9 to 10. Just depends on the season.
And you're that head dude. There ain't nobody else that is.
For my department, there's people above me that are running like station management. But for my department, Now my first season at McMurdo, I was a sous chef and was training because I was taking over that position in the following winter. But other than that, I'm in charge of that whole team, which is typically about 9 to 10. So.
And tell us a little bit. So most people would probably, and I assumed this before I started talking to you here a while back, that I was thinking it's going to be like MRE meals. I was like, it's Antarctica. They're not going to be doing, some real cooking or eating down there. But from what I saw on your Facebook post and shit.
We know we eat well. It's challenging, but, we have pretty limited resources, but we make it happen. I do my best. I take a lot of pride in what I do. And food is morale. And it's very important to morale in that environment. And morale is key when you're in that type of location. So we do our best with what we have. We're not getting, particularly South Pole, we're not getting a lot of fresh stuff in. We do have a small little greenhouse there, but it only produces so much. Mostly everything we have is frozen, but we do a lot with what we have. And I try to put out the best meals that we can put out. I mean, every Sunday in the summer, we do a big brunch every Sunday and put out big cheese boards and waffle stations and kind of what you would see at a nice hotel. We do our best to put out really good food.
I was curious what the quality of the food you were getting.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag sometimes, to be honest. Sometimes it's expired, but you make it work. We've done a really good job in the last few years. We've done a better job of getting rid of a lot of the old stuff, but it's the meats we get are pretty good for the most part. Sometimes it's I have to work with this, but you make it work. To me, I think it's made me a better chef, to be honest. Cause, it forces you to be creative and when you have those limited resources. But we make good food, man. And I've had really talented people on my teams, and we've overcame some challenges. Every year, there's always something that gets kind of thrown your way. That's a challenge. Yeah. The biggest thing with there is. It's very different than most restaurant chef jobs. It's I'm not worried about profit and loss and things like that and food cost. I'm worried about managing our food inventory because I get one food order a year and I have to this is particularly for South Pole. I have to make that food last a year.
Wow.
And so and the way it works is so that food comes in. And when things go on schedule, things have been a little bit out of whack the last few years because of COVID, because some schedules got thrown off. So we've been kind of catching up. But typically, so the food order will come in on what we call vessel, which is a boat that comes in at McMurdo, and then we fly the food to South Pole at the end, right before winter, so February. And I have to take what we have currently in stock plus what comes in on that, reorder, see what we have, and thankfully, I have a really good boss who I've worked with for many years who's done a pretty good job of putting together some pretty good systems. But we look at what we have and it's I've got this amount of chicken for the next year. I know I'm going to have, winter population stable. It's 40 to 45 the whole winter. But once summer comes, it fluctuates and we quadruple, get up to about 100, 180 probably max, but usually around 150. So I have to plan in the winter to make sure, and I'm not going to be there the following summer typically. I'm going to make sure that they have enough food to get through, and then look at it early on. And then if we need to do a resupply from McMurdo, which is possible, I can look and say, hey, around August or September before winter comes, hey, we need more chicken if they're going to get through summer, or we need more pork or anything like that. Because there's certain items that are it just you have to have, right? Coffee is the most important, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wanting to know. What, are y'all having a meat with every meal, or is there sometimes you're eating grilled cheese?
We'll do grilled cheese every once in a while, but I'll do like a grilled ham and cheese for meat eaters. But yeah, grilled cheese, and that's like a really popular meal. That'll be like a lunch thing. Yeah, I'll do like things like grilled cheese every once in a while. I'll do like quesadillas and stuff.
Save on the meat.
So like it'll be meat in the meal, but it'll be like much less like amount of meat than if I'm doing like chicken breast or steak, where like in terms of like per person, like if I do chicken quesadillas, like I'm not like, if I'm doing grilled chicken, people are going to eat like 6 to 8 ounces of chicken per person. But if I'm doing quesadillas, they're going to be like less than 2 ounces per person of chicken. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're still going to be happy because they're getting chicken, but it's in a quesadilla.
So your perishables like bread and all this, are you making that in-house?
We make bread from scratch.
Okay, yeah. So I was curious.
We get like sandwich bread in that's frozen. That's fine. Like just like regular sandwich bread.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of stuff from scratch. So like we make fresh bread every day. We make most of our desserts we make from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah. So like a lot of stuff we do make from scratch. I mean, the talent of like cooks, the bakers and chefs I've had down there has been phenomenal. I've learned a lot from them, and it's forced me to be a better chef. But I've had really good teams of really talented cooks, particularly bakers. Like my last 2 winters in particular at South Pole, I've had phenomenal bakers that'll just blow your mind with the quality of
awesome.
the food that they put out, and just like beautiful desserts, really good. And like every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, we have like good desserts and good bread. And and I try, and I've been in jobs, particularly in Greenland, where it's all me. I'm doing all of it by myself. I have no one helping me. I'm doing all the bread, all the desserts, and the food by myself. But being around like those good bakers have taught me a lot, particularly how South Pole is high altitude. So there's like adjustments you have to make with baking and stuff.
I guess that would be a lot easier to just have a bunch of flour, water, and egg. Then, well, I'll say egg. Are you doing cartoned eggs?
So what? for part of the season, we have a lot of frozen egg. That's like the bulk of what we cook with. But during the summer, we can get fresh eggs in. And then I do, going into the winter, I typically get 5,000 pounds of we call freshies. Anything that's coming fresh from New Zealand, we call freshies. And I get that 5,000 pounds, I can order off a kind of a plethora of things from New Zealand that's going to be fresh coming in to get us started in the winter. The thing I have to consider, right, is like shelf life, and I'm only feeding 43 people. So I typically bring in about 25 cases of eggs usually. And those eggs will last longer than you think they will. The eggs will last about May or June before they start kind of like, you can't really eat them anymore. So like that number, 25 cases, like it's like the perfect amount where our goal is to run out right before they go bad. Yeah. And so that typically works out. Usually order New Zealand has a really good like shelf stable heavy cream, which is really good to cook with, having like a good quality heavy cream, particularly for baking. And like I like making soups and stuff. And then the rest is just like onions, cabbage, celery,
Yeah,
and then a small amount of it is like everyone's favorite, like apples and oranges and bananas and stuff that we don't get for the bulk of winter. We only can get right at the beginning, but those things have a short shelf life. So like that's the thing I have to think about. I only have so many people to eat it.
So your food storage capabilities have to be astronomical. I mean, to hold it for a year.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So we have like it's kind of a complex system. So at South Pole, below the station, we have these arches, and they used to be above the station, but they've been buried in snow over the last like 20, 30 years. And that's where we store most of our food. It's like every week I put in a food order, just like if I was in a normal restaurant, like putting in an order with Cisco, I put in an order with supply, and they bring it from downstairs and bring it upstairs.
Okay.
And so it allows me to control it, but it's kept down there. It's pretty fascinating. It looks like just like a giant warehouse, and just with just frozen food, just lined up. It kind of reminds me of like Indiana Jones, like when they go to that warehouse, right? It's just like this giant warehouse, but it's just food. It's just crates of food down there.
And you don't have nothing. It's just cold already.
Yeah, it's always it's like down in what we call the ice tunnel areas, or the arches is what we call them. There's some parts of it that have like buildings that are heated, but the arches and the ice tunnels are generally around about -50 to -70 year round. Yeah.
Oh wow. My God.
Yeah, always. Regardless of what the temperature outside is.
So shit stays fresh.
Well, it doesn't stay fresh frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying it won't get you.
Yeah. It's not going to go bad. Sometimes things will get freezer burned, and that's something we have to deal with, but it's not as often as you would think.
When you said food is morale, and that's so true. And it made me think of some of these like grueling backcountry hunts where I was just holy shit, I'm tired of this. This is miserable. And then you get back to camp, you get a fire going, and then you cook some food. And it could be not very good food, but boy, it sure feels good when it hits your belly, you know, and you're okay, I can make it another day.
Yeah, no, it's super important. And, you know, and I do my best to try to make everyone, it's not like, you know, and I always tell my teams, I can't make everyone happy every meal, right? But I do my best that I can. You know, and we cook a pretty variety of food. I mean, people that come down there are particularly usually pretty well traveled, you know, and have a pretty broad palate and like to try new things and like things like curry and Thai food and even done Ethiopian food down there. I've done all kinds of like fun stuff. Like one of the things I do in winter, just to kind of help with morale, is like people on their birthday, they can pick what we have. So like, if it's your birthday, you know, tell me what you want. We'll put it on the menu. If I have the ingredients, right, I can make it work and I'll cook it for you.
So you do one particular meal per, like, so you do like one breakfast would be eggs, and I'm just going to throw something out there, whatever. And then lunch is a certain thing. Dinner is a certain thing. There's no picking or choosing. No. This is what you get.
You're going to get what you're going to get. Now, we always have like a leftover fridge and like a sandwich deli. Yeah. You'll make a sandwich, you know, and there's always like, I think some like the challenge sometimes is like, I'll have like most of my team, most of the crews are like, I wouldn't say young, but like in their 20s and 30s, early 40s, you know, are like our generation. And like, they're a little more like, oh, I want curry or I want Mexican food or stuff like that. But then you always have a few older guys like my dad's age who like, they just want like steak, meat and potatoes, like, you know, like simple food. And they're usually like a little bit harder to please, but I try to do my best. You know, I'll make you, you know, grill you some chicken, you know, if you don't like curry, or make you a steak, you know. But it's like a variety of things. It's like you want comfort food, but you want like things to mix it up where people are going to be like excited for the meal. Yeah. You know, and, you know, and like the galley too is like the place of where people come together, right? It's like the, you know, dinner. And I really loved about particularly South Pole in particular. And, you know, it's kind of for the better, but we've gotten more internet access now than we've ever had. But like, you have very limited internet access. So like when you're at dinner or breakfast or lunch, is like people are talking to each other, right? You're not on your phones, because they don't work. It's changed a little bit in the last year. We've gotten more. We actually have Wi-Fi now when the internet's up, but it's still only like 12 hours a day.
Dude, so I don't know if you think about it, but like just hearing about it, like you are one, if not one of the most important people that worked there. If you're the one making the orders, getting this food supply, like if y'all ran out, you're not leaving. You're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the most, like, the thing about a place like that is like everyone serves a purpose, right? Yeah. You know, especially in the winter. Like, I mean, we're at a pretty skeleton crew, and everyone has an important job, and every job serves a purpose, right? You know, I would argue that the most important people in the station are our power plant mechanics.
Well,
but you know, like the science is great because like they're doing really important science, but like we can survive without the science. But like the, you know, power plant mechanics are really important. Usually the facilities engineer. But like, you know, I try not to, you know, kind of create that narrative because like we all have our, you know, and people are really appreciative of us. Like that's one of the things I've always like really loved about. There's always been like a couple assholes who are like kind of difficult to deal with and are always going to be dicks, but they're going to be dicks in the real world, right?
All you do is cook. It's like
they're just complainers, and there's always going to be those people, and I just try to do my best to ignore it. And but the most, like, generally 99% of the people are just like super grateful, you know, and like super nice, and they understand like we do work hard, you know. Everyone always has to eat, right? You know, and like we don't get as much time off as everyone else, and flexibility because like we're always cooking, you know. In the winter it's a little easier because we're closed on Sundays and we get the day off Sunday with everyone else. But like it's kind of like in the summertime, we work 7 days a week, right? So we're feeding everyone on Sunday when everyone else is off. And so most of us, like, our days off is like Tuesday. We're like the only personal station with Tuesday off, you know? So that can be a little like frustrating sometimes. And I always try to do my best to, like, you know, kind of give my team and them time, you know. I always, like, every year is like everyone at some point in the summer, I want to give everyone a Sunday off because, you know, pick your Sunday. We'll try to make it work because it's nice having that day when everyone else is off.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's only 180 of y'all in the summer. So, I mean, mingle with the few people.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you get, and there's all the fun stuff always happens on Sundays, right? You know, so, but yeah, we make it work, and it's not always possible, but especially McMurdo, it's very hard to do that. But luckily this year I have a job at McMurdo where I'm, we call it county hours when you work that job. So like this next year I'll be Monday through Saturday. I'll have Sundays off with everyone else. So everyone works typically a 54-hour week. You work 6 days a week, 9 hours a day, and typically 10 hours a day. You get 1 hour break. But yeah, that's typical our schedule for the most part. But like we have a lot of hours we have to cover with the food because we're doing 3 meals a day. And
yeah, I'd imagine you'd wake up early, cook breakfast, and by the time you're done cleaning up from breakfast, it's time to start lunch, and then vice versa for dinner.
Yeah, so we have enough people where like a different person's in charge of each shift. So like, typically the baker does breakfast. So the baker will do all the breakfast, and they will make all the dessert and the bread for the rest of the day. Because they can make the dessert and bread, put it in the cooler, and then we just have to pull it out for dinner. Then we'll have a sous chef who's in charge of lunch, and a sous chef who's in charge of dinner. And then we'll have like usually a prep cook that's there to help all three of the shifts, and then myself, who's like overseeing everything and then covering people on their days off. Also, I'm pretty involved in the kitchen more than most. Like I'm not a micromanager, but like I'm not a clipboard chef as they call it. Like I like to cook, so like I like to be in there. I like to help out, But I've been very lucky to have like really talented chefs where I can really like. I'll usually like write the menu because I'm controlling the food, but like I give them a lot of freedom, right? The best I can.
Yeah.
That's at South Pole because McMurdo, we're feeding so many more people. We have to like be a little more like tied down with like very strict recipes and like and controls. We're feeding less people at South Pole and have a little more freedom with it, where I can let my cooks shine and let their talents come through. It's not always possible, but.
Do they allow people with allergies to go down there?
They do.
That would be
now so we have a very strict physical we have to pass to go down there. I'm in the middle of it right now. I mean, I'm going to pass. I'm pretty healthy, but the physical can be pretty strict. If you have a serious allergy, you're likely not going to get cleared to go. So like if you have an allergy that's going to like put you in anaphylactic shock, right? They're not going to let you go. Now, we do get people who have celiacs and get people who are allergic to like shellfish and stuff, but like they can manage it. But we always do our best to make sure that they're.
You got to do like a gluten-free menu and stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily do a menu, but like I usually know who's like gluten-free or whatever it is, and so always was just like I'll make it for them. I don't necessarily put it on like the hotline to be like I know when they come through the line, be like, hey man, I got your food back here. And they're always very grateful for it. Like I always try to take care of all the people that I can. But I mean, we got vegetarians, we got vegans. Like it's a large population, so you're gonna have people with different dietary things, and it's usually a pretty small percentage. But everyone's there for different reasons, and you want to take care of whatever they're asking for. We're not required to necessarily do that, but especially at South Pole, I have the resources to do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't know if someone like with a peanut allergy would be able to go down there or not.
I mean, if they had a really serious peanut allergy, they probably wouldn't pass the physical, but sometimes people will lie so they can get down there. And then they'll tell you when they're down there. But like, I don't hold that against them, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
I
didn't know how extensive you would have to, like, what you'd have to do to work around.
Yeah.
Certain people.
I've never had like an allergy where I had to like clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
Special way to like make sure there's like not like, it's not floating in the air or something. Like it's always been like, hey, I'm gluten free, and
yeah,
and that's fine. And like most stuff, like I've been doing this long enough, I know how to make adjustments and come up with alternatives.
Yeah.
So and we plan for it, and it's like that at all these environments. But same thing when I go up to Colorado. I mean, it's going to be, you just adjust for it. And like I said, it's not that hard. And like I said, most people are pretty grateful. And, and sometimes we'll forget and we're like, I just apologize. And they're like, oh, I'm okay. I like the chicken you had yesterday. I'll go get it out of the leftover fridge. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So.
What one thing I want you to talk about that I didn't mention to them and a lot of people will be interested in, is how you get the fuel to the South Pole. Like that, to me, I was just like, I was literally doing one of these. Just
So it's called the Spot or the South Pole Overland Traverse.
Get your sip of that bourbon.
So this is pretty awesome. Like I would only want to do it once, to be honest, but like if, like I would consider, like if I hadn't like really kind of built a career as a chef down there and doing what I'm doing, I would like want to be a heavy equipment operator or a diesel mechanic just so I could like do this job. But we drive the fuel to the South Pole. So McMurdo gets all the fuel via a tanker that comes in every summer by boat. And then that fuel, in order to get to the South Pole, we drive it in a convoy of tractors.
Really?
Yes, it's a convoy. They drag these giant bladders across the ice shelf, up through the glacier onto the plateau, and that's how they deliver our fuel. There's 3 trips a year: Spot 1, Spot 2, Spot 3. Spot 1 and Spot 3 are the same people, so they'll drive up there, drive back, do a week of maintenance in McMurdo, and then do the trip all over again. And they bring roughly, don't quote me on the exact amount, but somewhere between like 350,000 to 500,000 gallons of A&8 diesel fuel that they bring to the South Pole every summer to provide us with the fuel to run the station. You
were saying one of your friends goes on the trips before, like a seismic.
Yeah. So I have like usually so Spot 1's like the one that blazes the trail, right? So over the whole previous year, I mean, it's been snowed in and like the trail basically disappears. And then there is usually a person that so the Spot 1 always has a mountaineer with them that goes with them for the whole trip on the way there. Before they actually take off the trip, they have a couple engineers. A lady I worked with in Greenland, met her in Antarctica too, but she's an engineer out of Dartmouth, and they go out with radar that, like ground penetrating radar that can detect like crevasses and stuff. And there's more to it than that, but they do a lot of basically helping getting the trail safe. There's an area they go through called the shear zone, which is the biggest risk on the trip. So they go through and preliminarily clear the shear zone before they start the trip, and then they make the trip. And once they do Spot 1, they have it like basically like flagged off in a way, and they don't need the mountaineer anymore. They'll still, I don't know if they continue with the GPR or not, but they make the trip up and then they make the trip down. They bring all of our fuel, and then they'll usually bring back retro cargo with them. So like we have any waste or anything big that we need to get rid of, to bring back to McMurdo to put on the vessel going out, then they'll bring that back with them.
And you said if they ever get to like a crevice, they'll blow it up.
Usually a crevasse. If they come up to a crevasse, they'll blow it up and it'll fill it in. Yeah, I think that's the typical. I haven't been on, I haven't seen it done, but that's my understanding. Yeah,
that's insane. Like, just imagine just tracking across for 2 weeks across the
it's longer than 2 weeks. So,
is it?
Yeah, so I think. It depends. So the first trip there is always the longest, because they're like pushing through and like basically grooming the trail for the first time. And usually the first trip, I feel like it's usually between like 25 and 30 days there.
And I guess they're camping along the way.
Yeah. So all the tractors, but a couple of them. So most of the tractors carry the fuel bladders, and a couple of them will carry like basically it's a giant Connex. One has like their beds and stuff in it, and the other one has like a little kitchen area and like a little living room with them, and they have like a refrigerator with their food. You still have to refrigerate things because when you take off, for one, you don't want to. You need stuff refrigerated because it'd be frozen for most of the trip. But they take off from McMurdo, which is above freezing, right? So that at that time of year, at times. So they bring two of them will have like life support stuff on it, and the rest are carrying the bladders, and they camp out basically every day. They sleep in the Connex, which is just like a bunkhouse basically on sleds, and
it's crazy.
Yeah, and they make that trip every year. They have a buddy Pete who's done the trip. I think more than anybody. I think he's done it like 20 times if you count like the amount of, because he's done spot 1 and spot 3. Yeah, it's insane. So a lot of people don't do it that often, but it's one of those trips. It's beautiful for part of it. Then other parts of it, it's like being inside of a ping pong ball, because once you get onto the ice shelf, the polar plateau, like if you get bad weather, like it's going to be nothing but white snow as far as you can see. It's super flat. Get a lot of flat light.
So is it like you go from mountainous, like coastal, from McMurdo, it flattens out, and then does it start to elevate again at the South Pole?
Yeah, it will. So, well, the South Pole's in the middle of the plateau. So basically, the way like it would work is you'll leave McMurdo, and it won't take long. I think they'll be the way from out. You'll get onto the Ross Ice Shelf, which is an ice shelf, and it's flat and it's roughly at sea level. And then they'll hit I don't know how many days it takes them to cross the ice shelf, and then they'll hit. I believe it's the Levitt Glacier. I might be wrong on the glacier, but I believe it's the Levitt Glacier, and that's where they start climbing. And they end up. I mean, by the time they're below plateau, you're at just under 10,000 feet. But the plateau is flat, so like you climb up along the glacier, and which is some mountains and stuff. But once you're on the plateau, it is like it's flat as a pancake, and it's as far as you can see. I mean, the South Pole is flat. There's no mountains at the South Pole. It is flat as far as you can see. So once you're on that plateau, they're just chucking through, and it can become pretty gnarly sometimes. And then if it's a clear day, they can cover probably 50, 60 miles, but it's I mean, there's been days where they can't, maybe cover 3 because the weather gets really bad.
Dude, you have to be a built individual to do that, I would imagine. Yeah. Like, honestly, just to even, like, endure that shit for that long. Okay, I'm going to go on a 30-day drive in a case-in tractor.
Yeah. Crazy. It's a bunch of Caterpillars. D6s, I think, is the actual size. But, yeah, it's crazy. And usually they always have mechanics with them that are driving the equipment as well, and then a few are just heavy equipment operators. But, yeah, it's a journey. There's a couple other traverses. Traverse is a pretty common thing in the Antarctica region. There's a few other traverses that go to, like, closer destinations. But that's the big one, Spot. And, it's really important. It's really more important. But the fuel cost savings is astronomical, because before we created the Spot program, we were flying planes down there delivering the fuel, which is a lot. Very expensive. Like the amount of fuel, you lose more fuel flying it there than you do bring in. So Spot, even though you're paying the salaries of these people that are driving it, you're still saving. The savings in fuel costs is just astronomical. So that's why.
So I know you're down there for, sometimes up to, you said your longest trip was 13 months.
Yeah. It's actually closer to 14 and 20. But yeah, 13 and a half.
So not all of it is just work.
No.
Like, you were telling me a little bit, and you told them a little bit about it. Like, what's some of the cool shit you do? Like, probably during the summertime, I would imagine. Like, either in, what the hell's the place called? McMurdo. I don't know why I can't think of McMurdo. And then do y'all get whatever y'all can do there, or the South Pole, whatever, like some of the cool shit you've done?
We do, like every kind of station has its own kind of like local culture and traditions, but there's a ton of stuff we do for fun. I'll start with McMurdo, because like there's like certain annual things that happen, and there's always like something new that's like unique to that year and unique to that like particular community that season. And I'll talk about one of them that I really thought was really cool. But so there's like a few at McMurdo that I love every year. For one, holidays are always really amazing. Like Thanksgiving, Christmas are always a lot of fun. We always do a big meal and everything, and those are always really great. But so my favorite probably is ice stock. So every year in McMurdo on New Year's Eve, this is like it'll start around usually about 2 or 3 in the afternoon and go till midnight. That's where we'll do like the countdown for New Year's. We have an all-day music festival. It's outdoors. It's awesome, and we have really talented people down there. You get a pretty artsy group of people, so you have a lot of musicians. I mean, you'd be surprised by the musical talent of people down there. And it's an all-day music festival. It's so much fun, and it's hard to put into words until you've been there, but it's really special. And to me, it's my favorite New Year's I've ever been a part of, and I've been at McMurdo for it 3 times. No, twice. and I absolutely love it. It's just cool. People like will dress in like stupid costumes. Like it's silly and fun.
Is it outdoors?
It's outdoors.
I guess during New Year's it's
usually the warmest time of year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's pretty cold because like there was one year where it was like kind of windy and like cloudy and like a little cooler. But you just suck it up.
Still manageable though.
It's manageable, right? Yeah, it's manageable. Yeah, we always have like there's always a couple of heating like huts. We always set up like huts so you can like go in and warm up. And there's enough buildings close by too. You can go like if you need to go warm up a little bit. It's fine. In 2022, those New Year's of 2022, it was like beautiful. It was like perfect weather. It was probably, I don't know, 25 to 30 degrees, like no wind, like
You're
sunny.
wearing a t-shirt.
I wouldn't wear a t-shirt, but like, I mean, you can wear a t-shirt for a short period of time. The whole day you're not wearing a t-shirt. We were like light coats.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. So for an average Joe like myself or Porter or Ryan, you know, we like to take trips. We like to do, you know, experience different things. Would you think that like going to, what was the place? McMurdo. You think going somewhere like that would be, you know, something we would like to experience, or you think it would be cool like vacation, or is that something like
you can't really vacation in McMurdo? But I love it. I'd recommend it to anybody, really. I mean, I guess it's not meant for everybody, but like,
I mean, I say vacation, but just go visit.
I mean, if you
said
could,
there's hiking, there's
hiking's unbelievable. Like that's probably my favorite part of McMurdo. At the end of the day, like I love like all the fun community events, but like I love going on a hike, and it's some of the most beautiful hiking, overlooking the mountains, overlooking Ross Sea. It's just it's majestic, and there was a good variety of them too. There was one hike I've done several times. It's where we take all the hikes and we kind of combine them together. We call it the McMurdo Through Hike, and it's just under 20 miles, and it's awesome because you'll walk on sea ice, you'll walk on glacier. You'll climb a giant rock that overlooks Mount Erebus. Like, it's amazing.
And I don't know if people do that. I mean, I guess they might go down there just to visit.
I don't think you could, though, could you?
It's rare. Tourists can come to Antarctica, but they typically don't go to the McMurdo area. They go to the peninsula side because they can access it through Chile via, like, cruise ships and stuff. Yeah. We'll get a few cruise ships that come into the bay towards the end of summer in McMurdo, but it's rare. We get more tourists at South Pole than we do at McMurdo.
Cruise ships.
Really?
Yeah, we get a lot. Not a lot of tourists, but we get tourists every year at South Pole.
So no one's just flying in to go hike?
Not at McMurdo, no. Even tourists that would come, like, they would, like, if we were to allow them on base, they would get, like, a quick, like, 1 hour quick tour of the station kind of thing. Because, you know, if we let them just go, like then we could become liable for them. I think probably they don't want to deal with that risk. So
no, I didn't know how that worked. I didn't ask that question of the day was to see, you know, because like I told you, me and my wife have done a few hiking trips, gone around the country to hike, and I didn't know if that'd even be plausible.
No, it's not. It's not. You'd have to get a job and go work there and do a summer to get that hike in. Yeah, it's special, and like it's all like we have the department is all the field safety for like all the science. Like they maintain all the trails, and they're pretty safe. They're all marked, so you know where to walk. There's like safety procedures. You have like certain hikes you can just go and do. You don't have to check with anyone because they're like really close and they're not like super dangerous. There's like the bigger hikes, like you check out with the fire department and make sure that, you know, you check in, you check out. Like that's a really big thing in this environment, especially get onto the ice shelf. Weather can change at a moment's notice. And you have to have a system in place, check in, check out. Because if you miss your checkout, like we will send people to come rescue you immediately. So, last known location.
So the New Year's in McMurdo, that's your big one.
Yeah. So that's like that's like probably my favorite. And then New Year's Day, typically, we've moved the date around a couple times because like weather and different things going on. But typically New Year's Day is the all-day softball tournament, which I absolutely love. Like I'm a big I'm a sports fan. I love softball, and my favorite time playing it was in 22. So typically we do like each department around station will kind of put together their own little team, and my department doesn't always do that well. I mean, we're the galley, and so like our staffing is not normal like all the other crews. Like we get a lot of like young college kids. We have more girls in the other department. We get young girls like right out of college, and like you'll get like this like that particular year. Like I had like 3 of us that like ever played sports. I had like this was like and like I had like it was like and then a bunch of like theater girls, and they're awesome, and like they were like so into playing softball. Like and we had like practices, and then we won our first game. We didn't win the tournament, but we won our first game, and like everyone was pulling for us because like we never win, and we beat the Wasties, which is like the people that take care of all waste, and like they were supposed to beat us, and like these girls kicked ass. Like a lot of them never like swung a bat before, and like they played really well, and that's awesome. Like it's so much fun. It's like the most beautiful softball field. It's the most dangerous softball field in the world because it's like all rock, but like
no sliding.
The views are amazing. There were like 3 penguins that are like right off the side that were like looking there like they were watching, and like we build like we take connexes and they built like little stands out of it and dugouts. Like it reminds me of, remember the movie Hook?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was like the scene in Hook where they're playing baseball in Neverland. That's what it reminds me of. Like it's just really cool. People are always heckling. Like everyone's just like in the stands, they drink beer and heckle everybody, and it's hilarious.
I would be a heckler.
Oh, it's so much fun. Like, you know, that year playing it, like I think I made a post on Facebook about it. It's like I played football at P&G, right? Which is pretty fucking spectacular as a 16, 17-year-old kid, right? Playing in front of 20, 30,000 people. That moment playing softball there was like better than that. Like it was just like that moment in time with like that group of people, like in that like on that field overlooking like those mountains and the penguins on the side, and like that special moment, like everyone's pulling for us.
Very few people
get experience. Right?
What kind of penguins were they?
Adelie penguins.
And you were telling me a little bit, like there's certain ones that show up to McMurdo, but then like you don't see emperor penguins all the time.
No, emperors are a little more rare. The Adelies typically always show up every summer, and there was a summer, I think my first year, they showed up pretty late. Not everyone got to see them, but most years they're there by December. They're not everywhere, but sometimes you have to take a little hike to see them, but they're around station. They're usually, along the shoreline. They're definitely way more common. The emperors are a little more rare to see. I've been going down there for quite a while. Like I said, I think I probably have 500 days in McMurdo. I've seen an emperor once.
How big are they, those emperors?
The emperors, I think they get about just under 3 feet tall. 3 feet. They're pretty big.
I'm pretty sure you have I don't know if you took it off of Google or if you took it. There's a picture of an emperor on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Did you take that? Or
I have a buddy that took some of them. I took the one. There's one I have. I don't know if I have it on Facebook. There's one a buddy of mine took with like it was an action shot of one taking a shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But it was a buddy of mine took that photo. There was some of those photos are a mix of mine and a mix of some friends took those photos.
Yeah, I was doing a little Facebook stalking on you just to see, different things.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you on here.
Yeah.
So I saw there was a photo, might have been 21, 22. It said Zeke examining the Guinness World Record for most Southern musical chairs ever played. Were you a part of that?
I wasn't a part of that. So that was that was the summer of 21-22 at South Pole. I was at McMurdo that season. So I know everyone that was involved with it, and they did it. So what was funny about it, which I didn't realize, so the first time they did it at the actual South Pole, but then the Guinness World Record came back and said you couldn't do it there because that would make it an unbreakable record. There's a rule with the Guinness Book of World Records, whatever record you break, it has to be
able to be broken.
Able to be broken. So they had to do it like really close to the South Pole. Actual South Pole, because like
there's a lot of possibilities down there. Records.
There's like people do like really quirky shit like that all the time, particularly at the South Pole, because you can just say, World Southern whatever, right?
Juggling.
Yeah, like
You've dished out more food than anybody ever at the South Pole.
There's probably if there's anyone else, it'd be very short list.
Yeah.
I mean, there's might be a couple of people that have done. I think I'm the only chef that's done 3 winners. I know there's quite a few that have done 2. There might be one other that done 3. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back. But, yeah.
I tell you what we were talking about, and this is completely off subject, but talking about the sports and everything, we all got kids now, dude. And speaking of the heckling, dude, I've been looking forward to, like, you know, the ref or the umpire making a bad call and just heckling from the stands.
Oh no, it's great. The heckling is like the softball game is so much fun.
Get off your knees, ref! You're blowing the game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great, and we do a lot of sports there. Like we have a gym, and both same thing at the South Pole. There's like one day a week everyone goes down and play basketball. There's one day everyone goes down and play pickleball. Like there's always some type of sporting thing going on. South Pole in the winter we do, and I organized it this last year. We do the South Pole Olympics, and we do it's over a whole month, and we do like just a bunch of different Olympic events. Like we did everything from, I'm trying to remember. We'll do like basketball to powerlifting to.
Well, you're a pretty stocky guy. Like, did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, I did. I played football. Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm sure you worked out in your military background.
Yeah, I've actually, right now, it's probably the biggest and strongest I've been. Like this last year, I really worked out hard. Like I've gone through phases. Like I was actually pretty thin in high school. Then I got fat, and then I've gone on that roller coaster a little bit. But yeah, this last year I worked out a lot. I lifted a lot. Like that was like my focus. It was like I went on this like health kind of kick. 2022, like the whole time I lost a bunch of weight. I got pretty thin. Like I got really healthy in my diet. And then like in 22, 23, like I really like focused on gym, and I put on weight, but it was mostly
I'd say you could probably do some damage down there, like in the gym wise. Cause I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot to do, and we have a nice gym, Yeah, there's a lot of fun. Like the South Pole Olympics were a blast, man. We did, one year we did like long jump and high jump outside in full gear. So you had to wear all of like the extreme weather gear, which is like really cumbersome. It's like super heavy and it's like hard to move in, and it was hilarious. Like, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we do different stuff. We did like a hill scramble one year, like up the snow hill at South Pole. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we do different stuff. And yeah, and then every year's like different. One of my favorite, like the coolest moments was, it was around Christmas time in 2022. We had like a couple girls that worked in my department. One was like a professional ballerina, and another girl was like big into theater, and another guy that was on it was he's worked out on movie productions and stuff. And they put on a rendition of the Nutcracker, but like did it as if it was taking place in McMurdo with like a bunch of inside jokes and stuff. And like rewrote it for like us, and it was really cool. Like cool. It was so cool, and like they're like professionals. Like it was very, very well done. Like they were the only three that like had experience in it. They brought in like all these other people that were like just willing to participate, and they listened, and it was awesome. Like I was blown away. Like I'm not a theater guy, but like that was like that is cool, and like and the whole community showed up for it, and so there's like things like that happen every year. I mean, we did like. There's always like big different parties for like Christmas. Like one year at Christmas, like these guys put together a band, and they're a Weezer cover band called Freezer, and they played the entire like Blue album.
That's cool.
And like it was really cool. It's like always like people do like weird stuff. Like one of the annual events is Mustache Roulette in McMurdo. So it's like, and we raise money for it, and we
Mustache Roulette.
So you show up, and like throughout the whole week, people can like submit like different ridiculous like beard designs and stuff. And then it's like a spin the bottle thing. So if you sign up for it, and then you like go in, and like they have different like levels of beard. They have like college bro beard, which is just like not a very good beard, like medium beard, large beard. And then you go in, you set a table, and then like they like pick a ridiculous beard cut thing, and they spin the bottle. If it lands on you, have to get that shaven into your face, and you have to wear it for a day.
Oh yeah. You look like you can grow a decent.
I can
beard.
grow a pretty decent beard. With working in a kitchen, I have to keep it fairly short and trimmed. But
yeah. I don't want a little pubic hair in my my
so
potato
I
salad.
have to keep it a quarter inch is like the law. So I keep it pretty short. But yeah, some people get pretty epic beards. Like a buddy of mine, like every year, like he grows his beard out like really big, and then he does Mustache Roulette, and it gets destroyed every year. But he runs it, like that's his event. That's like he organizes it. But yeah, there's a bunch of fun stuff. I did an Iron Chef every year. I've been at South Pole where I was the judge, and like people in the crew, I give them a secret ingredient, and like they compete with teams. And I judge it. Like, it's fun. We do silly stuff like that all the time.
So, like, is there any extent to, like, your knowledge on, like, cuisine? Like, you were telling me you're pretty good at Thai, like, any kind of, just American, Italian.
I'm pretty, like, broad spectrum, right? Just especially in that environment, we try to cover the bases with everything. And I can kind of research stuff and try it and understand flavor profiles pretty well. And I've traveled a lot. So, like, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Vietnam, and I've tried those foods, and you learn a lot from that. But, yeah, I mean, we pretty much cook everything. You know, I say I have my, you know, I do cook probably more Cajun food than anybody else does down there, and, like, barbecue, because that's what I grew up on. But
y'all ever do any wild game down there?
No, it's rare.
I bet it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got some bison steaks in a while back, but it went wild. Like,
would we be able to, like, ship y'all, like, goose meat or anything?
No. Yeah, no. I mean, you could ship stuff, but, like, yeah, it'll sit in a garage in Christchurch for probably weeks and go bad.
Well, I mean, if it was frozen.
Yeah, it's not gonna get there. It's gonna thaw out. It's not gonna get there quick enough. Yeah, I know. That's definitely.
Because I would love to ship y'all.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do every year is like we go on big goose hunts.
Yeah.
And dude, if you did a goose gumbo down there,
no, it'd be great. But we can't. We have. The problem is like
FDA.
Well, that's part of it too. But the biggest problem is like it getting there frozen is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to get shipped to it's going to go to New Zealand first, and New Zealand's not going to allow it in because their customs are extremely strict with bringing in any type of outside wildlife. Like, you can't even bring an apple in New Zealand without getting fined. They're very protective of like their ecosystem there. So like bringing in like meat would be like a whole other thing probably. But the problem is like I've like ordered stuff and it's like set in Christchurch for like 3 weeks before it ever got on the plane to Antarctica. Right. So it's the nature of it, because planes, the one constant is nothing's ever on time. I mean, McMurdo this year, like leaving. So like we have the shoulder season. They were supposed to leave like early March. They were like, I think over a month late leaving because of delays. Planes break down. The weather goes to shit. And it's the nature of it.
So you've been to 5 of 7 continents?
Yes.
And which one's your favorite? I'm saying, like, which one, like, visitation-wise would be your favorite?
Outside of Antarctica, I would probably, I guess New Zealand would fall in Australia. I mean, New Zealand's probably my favorite, like, country I've been to in terms of just, like, raw beauty and just, like it's a beautiful country. It's very easy to travel, very nice people, and, like, but I don't know. I like Asia because of the diversity in Asia. Like, I love, like, Cambodia is, like, one of the most weirdest, wildest places I've ever been. Nepal. I love Nepal. I've been in the Himalayas. It was pretty cool. Kathmandu is, like, one of the wildest fucking places I've ever been in my life.
That's a place of, like, conspiracy, or, like, you hear about Kathmandu, like, when you watch the Travel Channel at midnight and stuff.
Dude, it's like, fucking wild. It's kind of like a shithole in a weird way, but like it's wild. It's wild. It's it's very, very like third world, and they had an earthquake there, I believe, in like 2015, and I was there in 2018. So like wasn't too long after that earthquake, and it caused a lot of infrastructure issues. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not afraid of many things, but I will not drive in certain parts of Asia. Like, the way people fucking drive is insane.
You ever been to South Africa?
I haven't been to South Africa.
That's the same, dude. Every time we drive anywhere in South Africa, I'm like white-knuckled.
Yeah.
Over here, like, good God, I'm going to die on the drive.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be the line that eats me. It's the damn driving.
I remember I did, Kathmandu was like wild stuff. Like, you're just fender benders, just what you do. Like, instead of like putting on your blinker, you just fender bender the guy in front of you, letting you know you're trying to pass. Like, that's just. But like, I remember we drove up to a certain point before we started the trail. Like, we did the hike to Everest Base Camp, and before on the drive up there, like, we're driving on like these 1-lane roads, and like you look down, like, and I'm in like the passenger side, so like I'm on the side of like where the road just turns to this like giant, like 2,000 foot just fall. Mm-hmm. And you're just in this like, clickety. I mean, it's a 4-wheel drive, but it's just like, God.
Probably has 500,000 miles on it.
Yeah. This guy gets a text from his wife and he responds like, we're killing.
We're on the side of a mountain.
Yeah. Like it was just like, it was sketchy, but yeah, we got through it, you know, but
Ryan just brought up something good a second ago unknowingly. He said, like, Kathmandu or whatever has good conspiracy theories, but I think where you spend most of your life down there in Antarctica, there's some really good conspiracy theories.
Ton of stuff.
There's a shit
ton. Like my first one is, what's after the giant ice wall?
Well, there isn't one. So I mean, it's. I have a buddy there is this thing that happens down there, and it happens out in the open ocean. It's called Fata Morgana. It's an optical illusion. It's a mirage that happens, and we get it at the South Pole every once in a while. It happens to me in Murdo a lot, but in the summer. But it looks like an ice wall. It's a temporary thing. It's a mirage. Yeah. Like it inverts like the horizon.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
It's just like the light from the sun's at a certain angle.
So
my buddy would he'd go to like flat earther pages and stuff and like share photos of it just to get them all riled up.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I'm asking all these questions and then I'm getting your input. The ice wall, and this coming from someone who's been to the most southern part of the world.
Yeah.
The ice wall's not real. All right.
Yeah. Ice wall is not real. I mean, some people will like share like the edges of the glacier. It's like it's a glacier like coming off into the water. Of course, if you want to call that the ice wall, go ahead.
Sure.
But it's a glacier.
Okay. So what about aliens?
I've never seen any aliens or witnessed any evidence of aliens.
I've heard there's like hidden technology in Antarctica. You know.
I mean, I haven't been given. I mean, we barely had. I didn't get Wi-Fi till last year. So
there's no fiber optic down there.
No, like I mean, shit. Like whatever that badass technology is, like it hasn't been given to us.
They're hiding it from you. It's probably Germany.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
that's another conspiracy that Germany had a base there during World War II.
I mean, there's really no one there until 1956.
Yeah,
like there was a. What do they call it?
Who was the first expedition down there?
Well, the first two, so there was a few that made it. So the big like famous ones are Shackleton, Amundsen, and Scott were like the big of that era in the early 1900s. The first to get to South Pole was Roald Amundsen, and that's an amazing story. I highly recommend like looking into it. So it was a race basically. So. He had Robert Falcon Scott, who's British, and he was a famous explorer, and he had been on expeditions with Shackleton, and that's a whole other story. Shackleton had failed in an expedition, I believe, a few years before this. And Scott was on his team, and then Scott attempted. So Scott starts this expedition in 1911, and when he starts, he doesn't realize that Amundsen is coming. Amundsen says, "I'm going to go to the north," and then turns around and like heads to the Antarctica. He's Norwegian. And ends up being this like whole race, and the Norwegians get there first, mainly because they're badasses, and
Vikings.
They're a little smarter with it, right? So like Scott had like he's kind of like crackpot. It's easy to be like the Sunday morning quarterback, right? But Scott was doing things where like we're gonna mansledge it and we're gonna bring ponies and stuff, and all the ponies died, and then they're mansledging where Amundsen used dogs, which was smart, and brought a lot less stuff with him. Where Scott was like, we're gonna do science on the way instead of being like, well, we're just gonna get to the South Pole. Yeah. Scott made it, but like 3 weeks after Amundsen. So like Amundsen gets there, he leaves like the Norwegian flag and like a note. Basically,
fuck you, I made it.
Yeah. Some buddies of mine made it like a drunk history of South Pole discovery. It's pretty hilarious. But they make it to South Pole. So Scott makes it 3 weeks later, and he dies on the way back. Him and his whole crew. But Amundsen lives, and that's a crazy story. And then Ernest Shackleton, if you ever heard, there's a book called The Endurance that I highly recommend. It's one of the greatest stories of leadership and survival, probably ever. I mean, they were stranded, frozen into the ice, and then walked and found the shoreline, ended up taking a tiny boat, like traverse across the Southern Ocean to land on Elephant Island. It's like one of the most insane stories. They all survived.
Wow.
Not one of Shackleton's crew members dies. They are lost for like over a year.
My God.
And
crazy.
they have to eat their dogs. They're eating like whatever they can find.
Penguins.
Yeah. Penguins, seals, whatever they can find. No one dies.
Wow.
Dude, I need to read that.
They got to. And then I think they return in 1913. And then like half of them die in World War I.
Stop right here.
Yeah. So we were just talking about all the expeditions to the South Pole, the first ones. And that was on the topic of
we started
aliens.
With aliens
and ice walls. And
ice walls, yeah.
So I heard there was like pyramids down there.
I did see that the other day.
Yeah, those are they're called mountains.
Oh, okay.
So they're
sometimes
they're shaped kind of triangular, but
most mountains, I think to be considered a mountain, you have to have a peak.
Yeah. You usually have
peaks. I think you get so many good conspiracies about the South Pole because nobody can check your shit because most people haven't been down there. So.
I know. Like my favorite is like, well, why isn't anyone allowed there? I was like, no one's stopping you. Like there isn't like a guard that you're just gonna likely die.
Yeah,
because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah,
and tourists can go down there. We get tourists at South Pole every summer. They have to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, but I say it's probably not cheap.
It's not cheap. I mean, the logistical costs, the insurance policies, like you have to. Yeah, I mean they're expensive, and we get about maybe 100 tourists a summer at South Pole, and these are really rich people, like mostly billionaires. Will Smith was there last summer.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We watched him out the window. Yeah, Will Smith was there.
I am robot.
Yeah, so like you'll get celebrities sometimes down there, but you'll get rich people, like just a lot of just wealthy billionaires and stuff. Well, they want to go see the South Pole
or the Titanic.
Yeah.
R.I.P. though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was reading up. So that's what we were talking about in my little training this past week, and my buddy's like, "Dude, you need to ask him all these conspiracy theories." And I was like, "Yeah, deal." Like, I was like, the three main ones that all the research I did was pyramids, ice wall, aliens.
Yeah.
But then like, there's a bunch of them I was reading that like got proven correct, but they're conspiracy theory. Like underground lakes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's underground lakes.
Which I was like, I can believe that.
Yeah. There's Lake Vostok, which is under. So there's a Russian base called Vostok, and there's a giant lake below it. Yeah.
Is it a fresh or salt water? You think?
It's likely. Yeah, it's gonna be fresh
because
water.
It's all frozen ice.
Yeah. So people don't like Antarctica contains 70% of the world's fresh water.
Wow,
that's a lot of.
Well, then what you were saying, you've had some drinks with some of the oldest ice on.
Yeah. I had it was my first season, and I had gone to I left the bar and went to joined some friends at this party down in one of these buildings just you never go into. And it was just, I think they were doing some science out of it, and they were just having some beers and some drinks. And this guy that was there was working with one of the glaciology teams and had 50,000-year-old glacier ice, and we drank whiskey on it.
That's cool.
Oh. Yeah, dude, how fresh is that?
Yeah, I mean, we drink Jack Daniels on it, but hey,
it's whiskey still.
It's whiskey, so it was really cool.
You've had one of the oldest drinks to mankind.
Probably. Yeah, and I've drank, and our ice at South Pole is always 2,000 years old, roughly, is what they estimate. Yeah. So
that's crazy. Yeah. Are there Southern Lights like there are Northern Lights? Do you have that?
Yes, yeah, we have. The Aurora Australis, so the Southern Lights, and they happen. It's only going to happen in the winter. And one thing I guess I haven't mentioned before is it's a little bit different at McMurdo than South Pole, the timing of it. So, but we'll talk about South Pole because it's the most extreme. So South Pole only has one sunset and one sunrise a year. So you have 6 months of daylight and 6 months of darkness.
Whoa!
So
and that's the most pure. It's not like everywhere else on Earth. You will not see it set, or it won't. Will it even get close?
The sun will set once, and that's it.
Cool.
And then it will not come up for another 6 months. So you can only see the aurora in the winter because it's the only time it's dark.
Yeah.
But it's all day, every day.
That's cool.
But the I mean, it's not like someone turns on a light switch. So like, imagine one day lasting a year is the best way I can explain it. So like, dusk and dawn are going to last like 6 weeks on each end.
That's actually pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
Like, that's actually one of my favorite times is like dusk and dawn, like that like light, morning glow and evening glow that you get, because it lasts like for weeks, and
then it gets all the way up.
Yeah,
and then it comes back down.
Yeah.
And then it comes back up, but it just never actually sets.
Well, it does set. It sets once.
Well,
yeah.
Once in 6 months.
Once in a year.
Yeah.
Oh. It sets once and it rises once.
So it sets and then 6 months later it rises.
Yeah.
But it takes it forever to set, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes it 6 weeks to go from this stage down to where
but you're
sets.
saying it like whenever it's rising, it takes 6 months to get
to the peak.
And then
it started going down. So the sun, and it all matches up with like the midsummer, midwinter, like it all like lines up with the equinoxes and stuff. Great. So, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Look, there's a couple. So you get the auroras in the summer, which are absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. And I wouldn't say it's every day, but it's most days you're going to get a little bit of auroras. And it's not necessarily all day, but every day you're going to get a little bit. If it's bad weather, you're not going to see it because it'll be cloudy.
And that's what the term you just used. What did you say?
The aurora.
That's the lights.
The southern lights. Yeah, the aurora australis.
And the aurora borealis is the north, right?
The north. Yeah. Australia just means southern.
Yeah.
So that's what the aurora australis. And the stars there are absolutely.
I can imagine.
Are beautiful too. Like so, South Pole we have zero light pollution, and we don't create any during the winter either. Like we're not allowed in the winter to use white light unless there's an emergency. We only use red light because we have very sensitive cameras on the roof that are constantly filming the stars in the aurora. So we don't want white light because the white light will interfere with those cameras. So we only use red light in the winter. And it just, so you have like very little light pollution at all. And it's breathtaking. Other cool like kind of anomalies that happen there is you'll get, you ever heard of the green flash? A lot of sailors will see it.
Yeah.
So we'll get the green flash because sunset and sunrise are so slow. It'll last a little bit longer than it would, let's say, out at the ocean.
Yeah, the green flash is something that, if you spend a lot of time on the water, you will see the green flash. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. So that happens periodically. It doesn't happen like every year because like the weather has to be like perfect. Like sometimes we haven't had the best weather during that time of year. But yeah, the stars are pretty amazing. McMurdo will get awards too. McMurdo has more like sunsets and sunrises. It'd be more similar to what you would see like on like very northern Alaska or northern Russia, right? Like you have about 2.5-3 months of constant darkness, but you have probably like 6 weeks or so where you're getting sunrises and sunsets every day. So because you're at higher latitudes, but yeah, and like I kind of mentioned that South Pole. One of the fun when I was talking about like fun things is we do. The race every summer at Christmas, we do the Race Around the World 5K, because we're at the South Pole, you'll run through every line of longitude on the planet and every time zone. Technically, every time zone.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I wonder how many in history. So you said the first people got there in 56?
So the first person to ever get there to South Pole was in 1911, and that was Amundsen, but no one returned again. Well, Byrd flew there, I believe, in the 20s. Admiral Byrd flew there in like the 20s or 30s, but they didn't set up any like permanent camps or anything. But the first camp, an official station was set up in 1950, November of 1956. And then we've had a continuous presence at South Pole since 56. 56 and 57 was when most, like, it was called the International, I forget the name of it. There was a name for it, but it was like an international collaboration that brought all of this science to Antarctica, and it happened in 56 and 57. International Geophysical Year or something like that, I think that was what they called it. And that's when the U.S., started its presence at South Pole, was in 56, 57. So 1957 was the first winter. And then there hasn't been, so my first winter was 2018. And we each get a number, those of us that winter at South Pole, of our number of, you're this number person to winter at the South Pole. And so like I'm 1536. I'm the 1536 person to spend a winter at the South Pole.
I was going to say, so
we're at 50, like I think we're at 1701 going into this last winter.
So I was just doing quick math. I wasn't like looking at my phone, but like You're saying in the summertime there's 180
people.
And then are a bunch of the people that are in the wintertime at the summertime or not?
I would say about half to 3/4. We'll do the full year.
So you're about 200 people a year in the South Pole.
Yeah, come in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. In total, there's only been 11,600 people.
Yeah.
If there were different people at the South Pole since then. Like in your station.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it may be a little bit more than that because there's been some years where there's bigger projects and they brought in more people.
So say 12,000 people?
Probably. I mean, I would actually, there's a gentleman I could probably ask. He'd probably tell me. This old man that tracks all this stuff, but he more tracks winter stuff and statistics. I do know. So I've done 3 winters at South Pole, and less than 200 ever have done that in history.
That's crazy,
dude.
More people have been outer space.
So, yeah.
Dude, I mean, you're 15 what?
I'm 15. I'm the 1,536th person
to ever endure a winter
at the South Pole. So, yeah. Yeah, we get numbers. We're at 1,701 right now after this last winter. Because my first winter was 6 years ago. But we're at 1,536 was my number. It's all alphabetical based on each year. Everyone gets a number. A lot of there's not a ton of repeats. It's weird. I was looking back at the stats and because I wanted to figure out because did my 3rd winter last year. And I have some friends that have done 3. There's not a lot of us though that have done 3, and no one. It's like 196 people have done 3 or more winters, and but all but one have been since 1993 because it corresponds with the internet.
Oh yeah.
Are you going to? So if you do another winter, you'll be the 4th.
It'll be my 4th
winter.
How
many people have done that?
Probably less than 100. So there's people that have done a lot more that I'll never break. So my really good friend, Robert Schwartz, he's done, I believe, 13 or 14 winters, and he did 10 in a row.
Wow.
He did from 2010 to 2019. He did 10 consecutive winters, and he holds the record for most consecutive. My friend Johan, who I wintered with in 20, he did, I want to say, total of like 16 in Antarctica, not all at South Pole. He's done a lot. There's a couple people in McMurdo that have done like 20 to 30, but a McMurdo winter is nothing like a South Pole winter. It's like night and day. I mean, completely different experience. I mean, McMurdo, if shit hits the fan, like they can evacuate you eventually. That's not happened at the South Pole. We've done one evacuation in the middle of winter, and that was in 2016, and it's so dangerous. And it's just not going to likely ever happen.
How does that work, the process of evacuating someone in the middle of the winter?
It's a lot. So basically you would have to get...
What was the circumstance? An injury or...
It would have to... So they're very because of HIPAA rules, they're like pretty close, lipped on... It was a medical thing. So usually it's going to be something to be honest, it's likely something cardiovascular. To be honest, like heart attack or risk of heart attack or something like that. They flew. My understanding is this is the way. I mean, I know how it works. So, because I've been in meetings where we discuss what we would do if we had a medevac, and so because we'd have to build a skiway, which is fucking nuts at that weather. So you're looking at middle winter, average temperature in the middle of winter. So June, July, August. I mean, it's rare that you're ever warmer than -70.
Wow.
I mean, if it's warmer than that, it's going to be shit weather. Like windy and blowing wind, it's going to fucking suck anyway. So,
-70.
It's going to take weeks before we're ever going to get a flight there if conditions are perfect. So, the only plane that can possibly fly at those temperatures is a Twin Otter. And those are going to be flown by a company called KBA, which does most of our flights in Antarctica. And they're going to come from Calgary. And it's going to take them at least, probably a week just to get to Punta Arenas. I mean, these aren't very big planes. They're not very fast. And, weather conditions have to be perfect. And then they have to get to Punta Arenas. Punta Arenas is, one of the southernmost cities in Chile. Then they have to cross Drake's Passage. So the seas are rough, but so is the skies in that area. So, and they have to get across over the continent and fly to the South Pole at very cold temperatures, and the weather window has to be available. So it's a lot.
You've seen it once, though.
I wasn't there for it, but it's happened once. I've seen all of the, I've read all of the after action stuff from it.
this base, like, how is it, like an acre in size, 2 acres in size?
I mean, the cantonment of the whole base is pretty big. I don't know about acre wise. It's way bigger than that. The station itself, the building, the elevated station, I would say it's like the size of, like, you can Google and find pictures of it. It's probably the size of like a small high school.
Gotcha.
Like it's not like enormous. We have 150 beds in the station. We have a gym, got dining facility, bathrooms and stuff. It's a decent size. Like in the winter, it's like feels really big because there's only 40 of us there. In the summer, it feels very small.
Gotcha.
When it's like fully packed
with people.
But a lot of the science is like away from station. So like South Pole Telescope is just under a kilometer away. The NOAA facility is like probably like, I don't know, 3/4 of a kilometer away. So it's not like super small. Like a lot of people have to walk outside to work every day. So
that's what I was kind of. Y'all do a lot of like astronomical like work
at South Pole. Yeah. It's cosmology and astrophysics mostly. There's a few other like side projects, but there are the 3 telescopes and then the world's largest neutrino detector are all in South Pole. So you have IceCube, which is the neutrino detector, and that's a whole complex particle physics. It's pretty fucking fascinating. Too dumb to
explain. I was going to say, what's a neutrino?
A neutrino is the smallest subparticle in the universe. And there's different types of neutrinos. Don't quote me on this, but it's a very complex. Honestly, that's not complex. It's actually pretty simple. But basically, every second, it's like trillions of neutrinos are flying through your finger. They're everywhere. But there's particular types of neutrinos that come from particular cosmic events, like cosmic rays and different things like that, that they can see. They're very hard to see because they don't interact with matter. My understanding, but it's super complex. Like I could go down a rabbit hole and probably not explain shit. So I know very little about I know on a very like elementary level, more than most people because I've been around it. But also I feel really dumb when I try to like explain it because I have friends that like that's what they do for a living and like let them explain it because it's like it's super complex.
Well, they couldn't bake a sourdough though.
Probably not. They could. You'd be some pretty. Be surprised the versatility of some of the scientists down there. And then South Pole Telescope is like the pretty big project there. So they're looking back. So South Pole Telescope, there's 3 telescopes that are within that collaboration: the South Pole Observatory, South Pole Telescope, BICEP Array, and BICEP 3. They're all very similar types of telescopes. They're all looking on the microwave range. So they're looking at like very dim light. They're looking at the oldest light in the universe. Trying to capture like the earliest visuals of the Big Bang. Like it's pretty fucking fascinating. A couple years ago, I don't know if y'all saw on the news, there was the first photo of a black hole.
Yeah. Was that down there?
That was us. Well, it was South Pole Telescope in collaboration with, I believe, 5 or 6 other telescopes around the world. We have there's like an atomic clock at South Pole, and so they're able to like link all of these telescopes together to like
get different angles
to look, and it basically turns the globe into one giant telescope because they're all linked together. The South Pole is really important because it's able to like help connect all of them and get the bigger picture. And so that's called the Event Horizon Project. That was pretty awesome. Like it was really like I have a lot of friends in that collaboration. It was really exciting when they did that. So that's like one of the big science projects down there is South Pole Telescope. And Event Horizon's still a thing. They're still like every year in April, I think was when they observed for that. But they're doing other stuff too. But South Pole's got very clear skies for the most part. It's very high altitude and it's very like zero humidity, very low moisture. So that's like what these telescopes need. Especially because they're on the microwave range. You know, what happens when you throw water in a microwave?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oils. Exactly.
You don't want like it's gonna disturb the image the more moisture you have in the atmosphere. So we also have the NOAA facility there, which is monitoring the air. We have the cleanest air on Earth at South Pole. So very little pollution.
No cancer in the air there, like here.
Yeah. No, it's like the opposite of Southeast Texas. So
the exact 100% opposite.
So so we have a clean air sector. So like with South Pole has prevailing winds like pretty much 95% of the time. So the clean air sector is north wind of the station. So any local pollution that we have very rarely will ever reach the clean air sector because of prevailing winds being so consistent.
Yeah, I took that little trip last week to Missouri, and I could tell within a few days just breathing that clean air.
Oh yeah,
I just felt better.
Yeah, you just get out of Southeast Texas.
I mean, the cancer in the air here is. I mean, you can smell the cancer. That's what I smell when I come into Southeast Texas.
And smell when you drive right here in New Hampshire. You ever notice that?
I know. When I was a little kid, I called them stinky plants.
Yeah. Well, I still call them stinky plants. You could drop an Exxon at 3 a.m. in the morning. It smells like a fucking fart in your truck.
It does. Yeah. So like it was always it's weird there because it's cleaner. I bring home these you go at the cleaner. It's a little just gimmick. They'll give you this little vial and it's like the cleanest air in the world. It's like and like I'll brought home and give it to my parents. It's like a little sample.
I mean, is that true to you? Like when you go down there, do you feel better like breathing that clean air?
Yeah, you do. Now, South Pole is really high altitude, so when you first get there, you can't breathe worth shit. Fucking, you're just
been there.
Well, it's like Colorado. I mean, I've been up into 15,000 foot elevation, and it's like
I kick your ass.
Fuck.
Well, the weird thing about South Pole is like South Pole. I mean, it happens a lot of places, but South Pole it seems more dramatic. Is so you have the actual altitude, then you have the physiological altitude, and so it's like the actual air pressure that happens, and it affects like your actual effect on your body in terms of altitude. So like physiological altitude will get as high as like 11.5, and it'll fluctuate. So like you'll go to bed and it's 9.5, which you're acclimated with, but like weather patterns are changing to wake up and it feels like it's 11.5, and so like that can be dramatic while you're just sleeping.
I asked you this question the other day, and I don't know if it's on their mind, but I was like, "Do you feel taller while you're down there?" You said no.
No.
Can you jump higher?
I don't think so.
Like
I've never thought about it, to be honest, but no. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, there shouldn't be anything. Gravity's the same. I mean, so.
Well, I didn't know because the Earth is actually elongated. I didn't know if if we threw somebody that can high jump 7.2, if he can get an extra inch down there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think there's ever been any research on that. So, yeah, maybe
I'm going to the South Pole.
You should apply for a grant.
Maybe I can. The Bayou Dragon grant. We're gonna.
They need our research down there.
Oh yeah, dude. How many beers does it take at
the?
How do penguins taste?
Yeah, dude. I would look. You might be. You have tattoos of penguins and stuff. I know you. I would eat the shit out of a penguin though. I would try it.
I know. I've eaten whale before.
Oh, dude, I've always wanted to try it.
It was gross.
Really? I heard it was good, but it was a guy in Greenland.
Mine was Greenland. I had it in Greenland, and it was like whale jerky. So it might have just been from some like.
Oh, it was actually turkey.
Yeah, it was whale jerky.
Oh, he had a literal whale steak.
Yeah, no, I haven't had a
cooked
whale
rare.
Steak. Yeah,
and he said it was It was like a.
No,
I don't want to say a whale because I might say like it's
some
one that's not supposed to be
or some shit.
Yeah, but he had one rare. Yeah. Kyle Duplachon.
I bet seal would be good.
I don't know. I think it'd just be they're really fatty and like I don't know. I feel like it'd be really really fishy.
Yeah,
like,
maybe so. Yeah,
for sure it tastes very like I don't know fishy.
I guess seal there's not any mammals other than seals and whales down there, right?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of seals.
No hooved creatures.
No, not in Antarctica. No. So Greenland, there's like polar bears.
And reindeer.
You were telling me about a pretty cool story about a polar bear up there.
Yeah. So I wasn't there that particular year. So the summer of 2018. So I've worked up in Greenland as well at the Summit Station. It's like the highest and most remote camp in Greenland, above the Arctic Circle. It's a pretty remote camp. It's very similar to South Pole. And Antarctica, kind of similar science too. A lot more like atmospheric stuff there, but and it's not really. It's more of a camp than a station, I guess, compared to South Pole. So not as much infrastructure. And up until 2018, we most people slept in tents in Arctic ovens at Summit. But in that summer, a polar bear showed up to camp, which is pretty rare. I mean, you're 200 miles inland on top of a glacier lake or the ice cap. Like, it's very rare. Like, for a polar bear to show up, it's been in bad shape. Like, it's lost. And that's what happened. A polar bear showed up, and, they were able to get everyone safely into the main building, and they eventually sent hunters from Iceland to kill it. And but it changed a lot of the ways we do operations there because, now we know, because the assumption before that was like there's no way a polar bear was going to show up to camp, right? And so now like everything has to be in hardened building, and so we sleep in like little fish huts now which are actually kind of cool. They're tiny, but I loved it because it's heated and it was I like the fish.
A lot better than a tent.
It's better than tent, though. The Arctic ovens are pretty warm, like surprising. I mean, because in Greenland too, that time of year you have 24 hours of daylight, so they're those things are built to like utilize the daylight you have to get warm.
God, a polar bear would eat you from your asshole in, dog.
Polar bear is the most dangerous bear of all because most of them never seen a human before.
Exactly,
and they have no fear. Yeah, they think you use food. I mean,
we used to joke because. They gave for a little bit. They gave us a bear spray, and we were like, "This is gonna make us spicy."
Yeah,
that bear ain't gonna give a shit about this bear spray. It's just like here.
Also, I would like a polar bear's like I don't know. Definitely don't quote me on this, but like they stand on their hind legs. They're almost 10 foot tall.
Yeah, they're way
at
bigger
least.
than a grizzly.
Yeah. I'm not gonna hit him in the face with bear spray after he slits my throat.
Yeah, and if it's windy at all, it's just gonna blow right back in your face.
Yeah, then you're really.
But then we found we can't have bear spray anymore because so they sent us all this bear spray up there after this happened, and then we found out like a year and a half later that bear spray is illegal in Greenland.
Oh shit!
So we had to get rid of all the bear spray. But it's like, what are we gonna do anyway? It's just gonna make it spicy. I mean, the biggest thing we do is just like you check out with people. You have a radio on you,
I don't think playing dead works with them.
No, I mean the only way. Hopefully you'd be able to see it far away enough where if I'm like out, because I would go on walks all the time. I don't go walk the skiway there, and it's 3 miles out, 3 miles back. You're pretty remote. Like there's something really special about that, man. Where you're just like you're 3 miles away from that station, and there's no one near you. It's just you.
Yeah.
Like it's a beautiful thing.
I've met people though up there, and they could have been bullshitting me, but they're saying like when they hunt, polar bears know that the only thing that is colored is their nose.
Oh yeah.
So like what they'll do is like get down really low up to the ice and scoot across it like with their ass in the air. Wow. And I'm like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I know that the only thing you can see is my nose.
Yeah.
I'm about to come and fuck you up.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't had any other bear show up since then. We'll get a bunch of we'll get Arctic foxes show up there, seagulls. They'll show up to Summit.
You feed them Cheetos like Galveston.
All the birds always die when they show up. To be honest, because it's so cold.
Yeah,
they're lost too.
Yeah.
I mean, at the Summit in Greenland, like you're only 200 miles from the coast. So and from relatively warm open water. So you're gonna get more, even though it's pretty remote and it feels like you're at the South Pole. You're definitely closer to where there's life, and you're going to get some remnants of that show up.
And you don't see a bird in the South Pole.
I've never seen a bird. I've heard of rumors of like skuas somehow making it that far south, but I don't think it's
they probably die.
Bullshit. They would die. Oh, most certainly would die. Yeah. They would freeze to death, and they would have no food.
Yeah,
there's no food.
Well,
source.
It's like, and I'm not saying like it could happen. I mean, we've been offshore, way far, like fishing, and you just see a little Chi-Chi bird, show up, and it's like.
Yeah.
Why are you out here? We put them on the boat, give them a little water, a little cracker or something.
Yeah.
They're grateful.
Yeah. What's great, like we're always like in McMurdo, you'll see like, and it's kind of sad. You'll see like a rogue seal that's like by itself, like where it's not supposed to be. And you just have to let it be. I mean, it's going to likely die, but kind of the rule is just to like let Mother Nature take its course. Like it's not our place to try to save that seal's life. Right?
Yeah.
This is like the last untouched place on earth. Why are we don't want to let it be. The only time we will try to like make them move is if it's like interrupting operations, right? So like if it's sitting in the middle of the skiway when you get a plane to land, we'll try to get it off the skiway. I had a plane delayed once. I was like flight delayed due to penguin. There's a penguin on the skiway. Which is pretty funny. We'll send the firefighters out there to like try to
shoo them off.
But that's like the only time like you're ever, and you have to get a waiver to get that approved to, do that, which is understandable.
How many years did you spend in Greenland? So you've done a bunch in South Pole, you've done a bunch in McMurdo, but how many have you done in Greenland?
I've done 2 seasons in Greenland. I did in 2019. I only did 2 months in 2019. I was there June to August, and then in 2022 I was in Greenland at Summit from. I was there for 6 months. I think actually the longest you can be there. I was there from March till September.
Why is it the longest? Because you have to become a resident or something?
Yeah, it's visa requirements.
Oh.
So, yeah. It's it was conditions of our visa. I think me and one other girl that was there, we were like we were like within 2 or 3 days of
Oh, damn.
Of our visa.
Like, you got to get out of here, or else you're about to be a citizen.
Yeah, I wouldn't become a citizen. It would cost our company like a shit ton of money in taxes, is my understanding.
So every time you work, wherever you are, say McMurdo, Greenland, South Pole, Colorado here coming up, are you working for the same company?
It's different companies. So Antarctica is all the same company. Greenland's a different company, and then this Colorado shop's a completely different company.
So like you were saying, you're a contractor. You just work through each one.
Yeah. So Antarctica, I work for a company called Ghana AU. They are like a service contractor out of Alaska, Alaska native company. And then in Greenland, I worked for Polar Field Services, which does a lot of like field work in like polar regions. They do a lot of work in Alaska as well. And then for Colorado, I'm not working for a contractor. I work directly for the Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory, but it's contract job. So you just sign a contract. I keep my residency in Texas, so I don't have to pay any other state taxes. I don't have to pay state taxes. So, that's like always people are, it's funny. A bunch of people, are getting, they get residency in South Dakota because it's really easy to get, residency in South Dakota. You only have to stay one night there and open up a PO box.
Ooh, I'm gonna do that for hunting tags.
Yeah,
now
honestly,
that I know that.
Yeah, so I don't know how it would work with that, but it helps people because there's a lot of people from all over the country, and they're like in states that have state income taxes, and when you're not in that state utilizing the resources, it's pretty frustrating having to pay those state taxes. So they'll get like Texas doesn't have state income taxes, but it's harder to become a resident.
North Dakota.
South Dakota.
South Dakota.
South Dakota is very easy, in my understanding, to get residency.
You want to split a house?
P.O. box, bro.
But I don't know. Like Texas, you already have. You don't have any state income taxes. So
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. We're talking about hunting tags. Like if you get for my understanding, like on a hunting aspect, as long as you get like mail delivered to a like address, a certain amount of mail, you can claim that that's your. Like your home.
So, like when it comes to tags and out of state or state like the western states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho.
Yeah.
They have a big number of tags set aside for residents and then a smaller number set aside for non-residents. Well, everybody that really wants to hunt there is a non-resident, so you're in that pool, the smaller amount of tags.
Gotcha.
Because you don't hunt or do all that stuff much.
I'm not. I haven't hunted since I was a kid.
Yeah. So like say they're pulling 100 tags for elk, in one state, there's probably 20,000 people applying for that. Know?
Oh wow. Yeah.
So it's there's harder. People I know people that have been like on a list in Montana for like 11, 12 years to hunt a deer.
Yeah.
Or a elk, whatever
Yeah.
And
you should look at I have no idea how it works with that, but I know it does help people with
and South Dakota's like one of the most strict for like waterfowl and stuff like what we do a lot of. We travel up north to do a lot of waterfowl hunting. Like in South Dakota, it's like stupid to be able to do it on your own. You have to there's so many regulations. So like you basically have to go with a guide. We don't do that. We do our own research. We do our own like permission, shit like that on all our hunting. Yeah. So like South Dakota's kind of out of the picture. But if we have a residency,
I don't know how it would work with that, but I know it's benefited a few people to try to avoid. I'm
gonna look into that. I think that would be actually beneficial.
I'm gonna also look into that.
Like if I get a mule deer tag in South Dakota, dude, be like, hey.
So those two companies you mentioned working for in Antarctica and Greenland, I'm assuming they do a lot of like oil and gas exploration where they like.
Polar Field does it. Polar Field basically all they do is science. Ghana AU does a little more of that because they're out of Alaska. So they both do a lot of work in Alaska. But Polar Field Services was actually a company that was started by like some Antarctica folks like 20 years ago. Gotcha. And so they kind of really have kind of specialized in like the science camp niche. Where Ghana AU kind of does everything. Like they do all kinds of stuff up in Alaska. They're a native company. Like I think they do some stuff up in like the North Slope and stuff like that. A lot of people I work with down there, you go back and forth. It's not, it's not that we love cold places. You just kind of find in this niche because the seasons align up with each other, right? So, and Alaska has a lot of contract work, seasonal work. So, like, a lot of people will go work the summer in Antarctica and then go work the summer in Alaska.
Because you're crossing the hemisphere.
Didn't you tell me you've never been to Alaska?
And I've never been to Alaska, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I've had some job opportunities come my way, but like the timing didn't work out. But
it's insane for someone who's literally.
I know. I think I will eventually make my way up there. Even if it's just like for a trip to like visit.
I want to do a trip to visit in Alaska.
But yeah, I would love. I have tons of friends that live up there and tons of friends that work up there, all over.
Anchorage.
Not as much in Anchorage. There's a few in Anchorage, but a lot of people in like the Kenai, Juneau, Ketchikan, up north Fairbanks. You'll see a lot of people going back and forth. But yeah, because there's a ton of seasonal work in Alaska.
That's like one of my bucket list places because
me too.
I want to go fishing up there.
Yeah,
like that's
I would love
big
to
thing.
just go up there for
go
a
get
month.
a fucking halibut that's 800 pounds.
Yeah,
something stupid.
Yeah, I think there's a lot off of like the Kenai is where like the best fishing is.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've never been. I know a lot about it. Never been up there. It's just my jobs haven't lined up. I'm officially, we call it like being bipolar because I've been to both. It's close to the North Pole. We've gone to Greenland. But yeah, and I got lucky with Greenland because like that is like, it's a weird place. It's kind of a sweet gig. It's always like the best people. Typically, because usually in Greenland, like in order to get that job, you had to have had a pretty good reputation in Antarctica. It's a small camp. Like the most we got up to was 38 in the summer. They only have 5 in the winter.
Is there never any work in like the North Pole?
No, because because it's open ocean water. There's no landmass there. I think it's very rare that they ever have a camp there.
And it'll probably be a little bit more dangerous.
It's a little more dangerous. It's harder to get to.
Yeah.
And
there's polar bears.
Yeah, there's polar bears.
And Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's elves that are trying to kill you.
Yeah, and Santa Claus.
Yeah, I've done like a few talks with like elementary kids, and they're always asking me about Santa Claus, but I always have like that out where it's like, well, he's not at the South Pole, buddy.
Yeah,
the North Pole.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah. So, like, they ask.
No,
I'm joking. Yeah, I always get that question.
What do you mean there's not Santa?
It depends on the grade. Like, if it's like second, third graders, I always get that question. You ever met Santa? And then I like, because I was like, I was in Greenland, but I wasn't close enough.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Did he still deliver you presents in Greenland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we don't get. No.
They don't in the South Pole though, huh?
No.
That's the north side, south side shit.
They do like station management. So like our big holiday and at South Pole and Antarctica in general is midwinter. So like the celebration goes back to like the earliest explorers in Antarctica. And so the middle of winter, which is in June, and it's the winter solstice. It's a spectacular. It's like my favorite holiday. Like it's such a cool thing. It's very much a tradition to there. And station management at South Pole typically always buys us like gifts in the summer and leaves them there, and we open them up in the winter. It's kind of like our Christmas in a weird way. Because it's such a tradition down there. But
I was looking at I'm looking at right now, like the first time Antarctica. It's so in January 1820, Antarctica is first sighted by European explorers. Like in the maps that they used to do, I guess that's when they was it still flat Earth in 1820?
No.
Like because there's all these conspiracy theories about like maybe in the 1700s, whenever like they drew like a flat mass, but then there's all the ice down south, but they didn't really, I guess, explore it.
Well, it hadn't been completely mapped, and it was a map, so it's like a distort thing anyway because it's a flat map, it's not a globe. But the first explorers would have been early 1800s. I forget the explorer that was like the first. I believe it was
Thaddeus von Bellingshausen.
Yeah,
reported seeing an ice shore of extreme height during a Russian expedition to the Arctic.
I knew it was Russian.
Like 1820, but like I guess they're just like fuck that, it's cold.
And then the first, I believe, to like seriously get the first decent like understanding of the coast was Cook, which would have been in the mid to late 1800s.
Yeah,
but yeah, those explorers are crazy. Like Amundsen and all those guys, like they go because they explore the Arctic too. Well, Amundsen he died in the Arctic, but like those stories are nuts. The Shackleton story is the best. But
what was that book called again?
Endurance.
you need
to read it. It's
I'm
really
gonna
good.
order it on Amazon.
No, it's awesome. But yeah, I mean, going back to Greenland, Greenland's a cool. The Summit's a cool spot. I really liked my time there. It's a little more camping than any other place I've ever been, but the best like overall teams I've ever been a part of. And like I said, it's just like just get really good people there. I mean, you have your like one off every once in a while that's an asshole that we have to like.
Yeah, you get that everywhere.
You get that everywhere. But like general, like just the groups are like really, really strong. They're used to these environments. They know how to behave in these environments. And they know how to like, they're just good community members. Like my last summer there was a really great summer, but we dealt with some hardships. And towards the end of the winter, so we have one of the things we have to do at Summit, and we'll eventually do it at South Pole, but it's going to take a lot to do it there. But so Greenland at Summit gets a lot more snow and wind than South Pole does. So things like bury way quicker, like very quick. And so even though like the main building in the station is like elevated, like high, like almost like a beach cabin, like on piers, within like 3 or 4 years, it's like nearly buried. And so we have to raise it. So it's built to be raised. And so when this happens, we have to like refix the plumbing and the power and everything to it. So we knew going into this like project, we called the building the big house. We knew going into it, we're going to have like that's also where my kitchen is. We're going to have like 3 weeks roughly, not going to have access to the big house. And we made plans for it. We have this little like Connex kitchen that I could use, and a couple of the spaces we could use like for people to eat, set up a tent. And so we knew that was going to be okay. But right about this time when we did it, so the way the station was set up, the big house we had 2 showers on the station. We had one in the big house and we had one in this other like little makeshift building we had. So we would go down to just the one shower, which is fine. And like one building with running water. But when this happened, everything went great with the lifting of the house, but simultaneously we went on backup power. Our main generator failed, and so we were on backup power, which puts at risk our servers. All right, so our servers are like communicating in very important, expensive science data, and so they were afraid if we because when the power went out, the servers went down. If we brought the servers back up and they went down again on another power outage, we were going to have to like a major failure in our ability to get comms, like possibly put us out comms for like almost like 6 months. So out of safety, they were like, we're going to not bring the servers right back up until we find a solution while we're on emergency power. So at this particular time, we have no comms outside of like one satellite phone, which was very like minimal. And we could send like one sentence to like emails. And simultaneously, the one building that had the running water, the well that we used froze over.
Wow. And so how long without a shower?
Almost like 3 weeks. None of us couldn't shower. Which, yeah. You know, the thing is, you didn't really know how bad you stink until you take that first shower. Because, like, it's like after a while, like, you just kind of get used to, like, your own
odor.
smell and odor. And you get used to it, right? You know, and we all smelled, you know, and we like, did our best to be pretty clean. Like, we wash our hands, we'd, like, put on deodorant, and, you know, most of us did. But there's always a few that don't. But, like, in general, you try to, like, you know, clean the best you can without having running water. But, you know, but that, like, 3 weeks ended up being, like, even though it was, like, more work and more of a struggle, like, we all, like, kind of bonded, and, like, it was kind of nice. Like, we all kind of, like, talked to us, like, it's almost like it kind of brings you back to, like, our primal nature. Like, it's, like,
yeah.
It's how humans are, like, were for most of our existence. Right.
I've never done 3 weeks. I've done a week, like in West Texas. We had a big ice storm one year, and out of 7 days of no running water, which that sucked because we ended up killing 8 deer. Oh, yeah. So I helped clean 8 deer.
You're nasty, yeah.
Oh, I was disgusting.
Yeah.
You're shitting outside, wiping by a cactus, and it's
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We made it through, and, like, you know, it really wasn't that bad, you know. But, like, Summit was cool because it was, like, I don't know, it was comfortable enough where it was, like, but it was still more like camping. You know, you had a shit in an outhouse for the most part. We had toilets in the big house, but you weren't allowed to shit inside because it would stink up the whole building. It was our only like common area, so it's like go to the fucking outhouse.
Yeah, don't take a shit in
Don't
here.
take a shit in here while we're eating dinner, right? You know, so I mean, it wasn't a big building, and like the ventilation wasn't the best, so it's like no, you're not allowed to shit in the big house unless you're the only person that's in the big house. So, but the outhouses they're like clean, like it's not bad. It's just a big hole, nice, you know. It's a little drafty sometimes, but
yeah, your shit's falling
into a giant hole. It actually creates a giant shit sickle.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then you gotta,
we're giving back to fossil fuels, dog.
We call it the Puna cone.
Puna cone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually have to chop it off and then build a new outhouse hole. We always mark them though with GPS so we don't re-drill into them later.
Yeah.
That's like the last thing you want to do. It's
yeah,
like
drill into a giant pile of shit.
Drilling an old outhouse hole with a hot water drill. No, that's the last thing you want. So you always mark them so you don't re-drill into them.
Well, hell yeah.
But
well, Zeke, we're almost, I think we're like 2.5 hours in. I think we're going to call it for the night. But, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. I really just, like I told the guys, I was like, dude, this is one of the most interesting dudes I've ever sat down with, like, especially at a bar. I was just sitting there, I was mesmerized by your stories of, you know, the South Pole, Antarctica, shit like that. And I was like, I really want to have him on.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you came and, you know, shared some of your stories.
Yeah, man,
like I said, after you get back from your next trip, I'd love to have you on just to see how that went. You know, make it a reoccurring thing. Like, how was it down south?
Yeah,
you know?
I'll keep in touch now. I don't go back to October. I'll be there till March. But
I'm also glad we've cleared up some conspiracy theories. Travel Channel, if you're watching, you can stop all those shows. We got the answers we need.
Yeah, we got Zeke on here. There's no giant ice wall. Because I was thinking, I just started Game of Thrones here a while back. So I've been having this theory of like this giant ice wall, you know, and wildlings and shit.
No,
it truly was a pleasure having you, Zeke.
And a pleasure.
I will tell you this: when Porter told me, he was like, "Yeah, this guy Zeke's coming on. He's a badass chef. You know, he cooks in Antarctica." I'm like, "Shit, you know." Well, Porter's over there cooking his ribeyes earlier, and Porter's over there really trying to make a good ribeye, and Zeke's just over there behind him. I could see him. He was shaking his head. That ain't gonna be worth the shit.
No, that steak was good, man.
Yeah, you flipped it too many times.
Oh,
you know?
No.
But
it was fun, man.
Dude, I've really appreciated it. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
no, my pleasure, man. Keep in touch. I update my Facebook and Instagram with photos quite a bit when I'm down there. So
will I be able to like still message you while you're down there?
Yeah. So now McMurdo, we have Wi-Fi now, so you can text me. I may not respond right away because it may be delayed. But yeah, I haven't spent a full season down there since we got Starlink down there. So
Elon coming in clutch.
Come on,
Elon.
So
we have the ability to get text messages now. So yeah. I'm on a different time zone too. I'm 19 hours ahead of here.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But yeah, I'll you can text me anytime, and like I said, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I always share a bunch of photos and stuff, and try to keep people.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I hopefully I can get with you beforehand, send you some some gear.
Yeah, for sure. I can get mail down there in the summer, so and then like I'll be here too. I'll be back here probably 2 weeks before I head down there, before I deploy when I get back from Colorado. So.
Well, when you come back from Colorado, I would definitely enjoy having a cold beer at Nature's Brewery.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, I'm usually there hanging out with Tyler. So,
hell yeah, dude.
Right on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you guys.
That was a fun episode.
Yep.